This is Mitsuo Akamori, a young man with a sharp suit and even sharper eyes, who seems to have a dark, bloody secret hidden just beneath the surface. Chapter 1. Mitsuo Akamori. The story begins with a man taking his frustrations out on a punching bag, his thoughts beginning to wander. No matter what has happened in life, some things remain constant. He muses that people always hesitate before committing suicide. As he ties his shoes, he thinks that in contrast, there are certain people who can handle both life and death with ease. He stands before a traditional dojo at night, continuing his philosophical train of thought. He believes that concepts like getting better physically or technically are just assumptions. In the end, it's all about one's perception of the value of life and whether you are willing to take it or not. His monologue concludes with the thought that martial arts have nothing to do with it. He snaps back to reality and announces his presence. "Excuse me." The thug leader steps inside the dojo, where a group of children are practicing. A man with a goatee and the air of a master asks him if he wants to join. The master politely declines the challenge, stating he is busy practicing with his sons. But the thug leader isn't here for pleasantries. He scoffs at the idea of dojo storming and tells the old man he doesn't expect an answer, making it clear he believes the master is afraid of being humbled in front of his sons. The master places a hand on the head of a small, quiet boy with dark hair. He introduces the child, who is none other than a young Mitsuo Akamori, as his youngest boy. The master then extends an invitation to the thug leader, asking if he would like to train with them. The thug leader's eyes fall on young Mitsuo, and a smirk spreads across his face. He finds this interesting and agrees. The master, in turn, thanks him. But the thug leader has malicious intentions. Cracking his knuckles, he sneers that it must be hard to feed so many children and that he'll help thin out the number of throats. As young Mitsuo charges forward, the master can only watch with a grim expression. As the fight begins, the thug leader ponders a question to himself. What would be the best martial art to use when both opponents are equally intent on murder? Despite his size, Mitsuo is no match for the larger man, who easily deflects his attack. The thug leader continues his internal monologue, listing off various martial arts like boxing, karate, judo, taekwondo, and muay thai. He considers mixed martial arts, but quickly dismisses it as well. He is certain that none of these are the ultimate killing art. He believes they have lost their significance, becoming mere games or tools of entertainment. He feels that even if a martial artist wanted to kill, the techniques of mixed arts wouldn't allow for it, as he effortlessly handles another of the master's sons. As another of the children is thrown aside, the thug leader continues his thought process. If he had to choose one true killing art, it would definitely be Shoshin Katsu Shiryu Kenpo. As the thug leader brutally strikes down another child, the master stands by, recognizing the style as a legendary killing art that still lives on today. The scene fades to black, and the story jumps forward 15 years into the future, landing in a modern-day city at night. We are now in a generic office building, where inside, we see the adult Mitsuo Akamori, the young boy from the dojo, now grown up and working as a salaryman. He types away at his computer while his colleagues chat nearby. The scene is one of typical, mundane office life. Mitsuo is on the phone, his desk cluttered and overflowing with paperwork, a clear sign of his heavy workload. He wraps up his call. This is Mitsuo Akamori, now 24 years old. He works as a confectionery producer in the product planning department for a company called Carvon. A colleague, his senpai, approaches Mitsuo, noting that he's still working late. Mitsuo confirms with a weary yes, and the senpai casually mentions he's also stuck with overtime. The senpai points out how messy Mitsuo's desk is compared to everyone else's, telling him he's working too much. Mitsuo seems oblivious, but the senpai mutters under his breath that Mitsuo must have been born stupid. The senpai bluntly tells Mitsuo that this is why everyone pushes work onto him, because he's stupid. He advises him that the golden rule is to make the job easy for yourself. Mitsuo can only offer a weak, awkward laugh in response, but inside, a thought begins to form. In his mind, he imagines himself pushing back the massive pile of documents, his demeanor suddenly cold and defiant. He visualizes telling his senpai, "I'm not going to do it," stupid, finally standing up for himself. It seems the previous confrontation was all in Mitsuo's head. In reality, his senpai invites him for a beer, which he declines. As the senpai leaves, Mitsuo thanks him, maintaining his meek persona. Meanwhile, another colleague is looking for a manual he printed. A kind-faced colleague approaches Mitsuo. She is Kashiwa Keat, 22 years old. She notes with concern that he is working overtime again. Keat asks what he's working on. Mitsuo confirms he has a lot to do, listing off a litany of tasks: preparing sales manuals, marketing reports, product packaging, and sending course request forms to ad agencies. Keat is stunned that he's handling all of this by himself. Mitsuo just smiles sheepishly and says that everyone just leaves it all to him, while she thinks to herself how unfair it is. She warns him that he'll burn out if he keeps working like this, but he assures her he's fine. He reveals that he works at home too, because his hands are full these days with something way more important. When Keat asks what that important thing is, Mitsuo replies, "Training you," pointing out that she is a trainee. The comment hangs awkwardly in the air. After a moment of surprise, Keat smiles and offers her help, but Mitsuo says he's learning enough just by being near her. Deciding to call it a day, she wishes him good night as she leaves the now empty office. The clock hits 10:35 p.m. Mitsuo is the only one left, typing away in the silent office. A bead of sweat drips down his face as his fingers fly across the keyboard, the picture of an overworked employee pushing his limits. Finally, he slumps over his desk in exhaustion. The clock now reads 11:14 p.m., the late hour marked by empty energy drink bottles. He decides to rest his eyes, telling himself he'll just sleep for 5 minutes. But he immediately realizes that if he falls asleep now, he'll be out until morning. He groans at the thought, still utterly exhausted. With a sigh, he gives up on working any later, closing his laptop. He resigns himself to finishing the work at home and leaves the deserted office. Mitsuo walks alone through the city, the towering, dark buildings reflecting his solitude. He's so tired he can't even remember if he submitted an important report. He glances at his watch. It's 11:30 p.m. Needing to be sure, he finds a park bench to sit down and check his briefcase for the documents. As he rummages through his bag, some papers slip out and fall to the ground. While bending over to pick them up, a strange noise catches his attention. In the distance, he sees a horrifying scene. A group of 3 young thugs are brutally kicking and beating an old man, while another looks on, amused. The old man's pleas for mercy and his screams of pain echo in the night. Mitsuo, still on the ground, freezes as he hears the man cry out, "Don't hit my medulla." As he gathers his fallen papers, Mitsuo watches the assault, thinking to himself how unbelievable it is to witness an attack on a middle-aged man like this. He looks over the documents in his hand, then back at the thugs, thinking with a dark sense of irony that only ignorant people would do such things, and that their lives must be far easier than his own. He lets out a long, weary sigh, seemingly ready to ignore the situation and move on from the unpleasantness. He decides to find another place to sort his things, but as he turns to leave, a sharp "Hey" stops him in his tracks. His face pales. He's been spotted. The thugs, led by the same man with the scar from the dojo 15 years ago, surround him. "What are you looking at?" the leader demands. As Mitsuo stammers in fear, his meek salaryman persona is still in full effect. Mitsuo desperately tries to de-escalate, claiming he was just taking a break and saw nothing. But the thug leader has no patience for excuses. With a snarl to "Shut the fuck up," he lands a vicious punch to Mitsuo's jaw, sending him stumbling. The thug leader gets in Mitsuo's face, demanding he empty his pockets and hand over his wallet. Mitsuo's eyes, however, are no longer filled with fear, but with a cold, unnerving focus. Mitsuo weakly claims he has no money, which only serves to amuse the thugs, who laugh at his pathetic defiance. Enraged, the thug leader grabs Mitsuo by the collar, screaming that he'll kill him. But as he does, he fails to notice the shift in Mitsuo's expression, from a scared victim to a cold, calculating predator. A long, tense silence hangs in the air before Mitsuo speaks, his voice devoid of fear. "Kill me?" he asks, the question turning the threat back on his attacker. As his briefcase thuds onto the pavement, Mitsuo's transformation is complete. Looking up with eyes that have seen true violence, he states calmly, it isn't that easy. In a flash of movement, Mitsuo slams the thug leader face first into the ground. With a foot planted firmly on his back, Mitsuo's voice drips with menace as he asks, "What were you saying about killing people?" Pinning the thug's head to the ground, Mitsuo delivers a chillingly specific threat. "Listen now, I am going to kick your fifth vertebrae." The thug's eyes widen in pure terror. While holding the thug in a brutally efficient lock, Mitsuo calmly lectures him on the medical consequences. Breathing will get harder, followed by paralysis as the muscles and nerves in his back are systematically destroyed. Looking down at the terrified man, Mitsuo concludes his lesson in cruelty. He promises to choke him to death so he'll die in pain and fear, then glances at the other two, adding, "You guys too." The remaining two thugs, frozen in fear, finally react. One shakily pulls out a folding knife, while the other brandishes a crackling stun gun. Spurred into action, the thug with the knife lunges forward in a desperate, wild stab. Mitsuo sidesteps the attack with fluid grace, redirecting the blade. "Are you afraid of stabbing yourself?" he asks mockingly, before delivering a vicious knee to the thug's ribs, knocking the wind out of him. As the thug crumples to the ground in agony, Mitsuo gives him a piece of advice. "Hold the folding knife with your two hands." The last thug watches, his horror growing. With a scream of "Die!" the last thug charges, thrusting the stun gun towards Mitsuo's chest. Mitsuo effortlessly parries the attack, knocking the stun gun aside with the back of his hand, as if swatting a fly. He looks at his attacker with utter contempt. "Die? Are you really going to kill me with a stun gun?" he scoffs, before slamming his fist into the thug's face. The thug stumbles back, defeated. As the stun gun clatters to the ground, Mitsuo calmly adds, "If you really want to do that, at least use a taser." On his knees, the thug can only look up in utter terror, stammering, "Be bastard." Mitsuo grabs him by the hair, his face a mask of cold fury. His mind flashes back to his training. Dodge the attacks elegantly. Attack to the vertebrae rigorously. This is the way. A single tear escapes the thug's eye as he stares up at the cold, emotionless face of the man who so easily dismantled him and his friends. The last thug lies incapacitated on the ground, twitching in a puddle of his own making. The scene flashes back to the dojo, years ago. A young Mitsuo stands over a defeated opponent as his master's voice explains that robust muscles and supple movements make an MMA fighter. But that power means nothing against the killing art of Shoshin Katsushiryu, and against Mitsuo himself. The flashback continues. The master notes that young Mitsuo has achieved his goal of defeating a third opponent. He then sets a new, chilling goal. "Next time, let's kill 10, shall we?" The master informs his other students that they will all be involved in this training. He then places a hand on young Mitsuo's head, acknowledging him as the group's terrifying prodigy. A sinister smile plays on the master's lips as he thinks how easily Mitsuo could kill a real fighter. "Keep working hard like this," he muses, his thought building towards the boy's ultimate title. But, in the end, he is the master's thought from the past completes itself, revealing the horrifying truth of Mitsuo's upbringing. He is the most gifted murderer in our family. Snapping back to the present, Mitsuo stands over the last thug, who can only stare up in abject terror at the man who so thoroughly and cruelly defeated him. Mitsuo turns his back on them, making a decision. "I am not going to kill you," he states. As the thug leader processes this, Mitsuo explains with a chilling smile, "Because I want to stay as a salaryman." He pauses for a moment, standing over the wreckage he created, before adding one final, terrifying thought. "Well, in my case," he says while calmly walking away, "it is easier than being a salaryman." The thugs are left broken and terrified, watching the unassuming salaryman disappear into the night. And so, the story begins. This is the path of Mitsuo Akamori, a 24-year-old salaryman. It is a path covered in blood. A dark figure living in the modern era, he disappears into the darkness and keeps working overtime. The second chapter of Satsudou begins, promising a 44-page battle entertainment experience. The scene opens on an exhausted office worker, Mitsuo Akamori, fast asleep at his desk, a nearly empty bottle of black coffee teetering on the edge. This is the start of Chapter 2, Shoshin Katsushiryu. His colleagues, however, are engaged in a lively conversation nearby. The woman, Kashiwa Keat, impressed, asks their co-worker, Inju, if he really teaches Shirinji Kenpo. He confirms, mentioning he just teaches elementary and middle school students on weekends. Inju proudly states that he even met his wife through the Shirinji Club at university. He then turns his attention to the sleeping Akamori, suggesting that Kashiwa should try it for exercise. The colleagues continue to discuss how doing exercises relieves stress, implying that Akamori's lifestyle must be stressful. Little do they know, this ordinary salaryman is Rokuo Akamori, the sixth son of a family that practices a legendary killing technique, walking a bloody path in secret. Suddenly, the coffee bottle finally tips over. Inju looks over, noticing the spill and the collection of other empty bottles surrounding their sleeping coworker. With a swift move, Inju stops the falling bottle with his foot. The slight disturbance is enough to stir Akamori, who groggily wakes up, realizing he had fallen asleep on the job. Akamori decides he should wash his face. Just then, Inju and Kashiwa approach him. Kashiwa says his name with concern, and Inju tells him he looks tired and should take a proper break. Inju playfully pokes Akamori, suggesting he should take up sports. Akamori politely declines, but Kashiwa observes him, noting that contrary to his claims of being busy, he looks like someone who does some sports. Caught off guard, Akamori explains that he usually just sits at home and watches a TV show called Salaryman Jintaru. Inju is flabbergasted, exclaiming that it sounds incredibly boring. Akamori's demeanor suddenly changes as he passionately defends the show, claiming it's surprisingly fun and a great learning experience on how to be an ordinary salaryman, much to his colleagues' confusion. He explains that the show is about fighting injustice and bosses to achieve perfect attendance, which everyone does. Inju, still not getting it, asks where the fun part is and warns Akamori that he's going to lose his mind watching such things. Inju tries again to get Akamori to learn Shirinji Kenpo, arguing that strong guys are popular with girls. But Akamori dismisses the idea, saying there's no chance for him. Inju retorts that he'd die if he ever got in a fight, while Kashiwa chuckles at the exchange. Still trying to make his point, Inju sets up a hypothetical situation. He smirks and asks Akamori what he would do if a drunk person tried to kick him in the stomach. As Inju demonstrates with a high kick, Akamori simply ducks underneath it with minimal effort, calmly replying, "I would duck like this." His colleagues burst into laughter at his deadpan response, with Inju calling him a funny Jackie Chan. As they laugh, Akamori quietly thinks to himself that there's no way he'd ever get hit. The scene then transitions away from the office. Night falls on the city. In front of a glowing arcade, a group of young men, including Akamori, are seen walking along the wet pavement. Inside the noisy arcade, filled with game machines, the story shifts to the consequences of the previous night's events. A young man with light hair questions three others who are kneeling before him. He recounts their story. They were beating up an old man when a salaryman intervened, getting them angry enough to attack him with weapons. The leader looks down on his defeated men, and then all of a sudden, "He beat you three up? Did I get it right?" he asks, confirming the unbelievable story from the night before. He then reveals a pack of pills, questioning if this incident was why they missed an important drug deal. He scolds them, saying they underestimated the world, thinking gangs were smarter than the Yakuza. The thugs tremble in fear as their leader's face darkens. He leans in and asks menacingly, "Or, did you underestimate me?" One of the thugs desperately tries to explain that the salaryman wasn't normal, that he was just really lucky. But their leader isn't listening, calling him stupid and warning that because of them, the deal has been postponed and they'll be executed if caught. A chilling smile spreads across the leader's face. "I am scared," he says sarcastically. He takes a deliberate step forward, his voice dripping with menace. With a sudden, vicious movement, he kicks one of his subordinates in the face. The panel introduces him, Aota Kenshin, a 24-year-old former junior kickboxing champion. Even the former junior kickboxing champion can't win against him, you say? He sneers, his disbelief turning into dangerous curiosity. Aota Kenshin leans in closer to his terrified subordinate, a menacing smile playing on his lips. He tells the thug that he and his friends have been pretty unlucky today. The thug immediately prostrates himself on the ground, apologizing profusely, his face a mask of pure terror. Aota continues to press his foot near the man's face, asking if they're serious about their story. The thug can only look up in confusion while repeating his apologies. Aota finally gets to the heart of his disbelief. He demands to know if the salaryman actually tried to kill them. The thug frantically insists it's the truth. He claims he hit the salaryman's throat with a stun gun, but nothing happened. Aota scoffs, accusing him of missing because he was scared. Another one of the thugs, his face bandaged from the previous encounter, backs up the story. He recounts how he tried to stab the man to death, only for the salaryman to effortlessly disarm him. Hearing that 2 of his men attacked and failed, Aota begins to wonder if the man is a martial artist. An explanation follows, showing how a basic dodging move in Chinese martial arts, which seems simple, is actually quite complex. Aota muses that even if the move looks easy, it is incredibly hard to master. He concludes that if someone were to perfect it, even professionals would be defeated just as easily as his men were. The thugs, clearly out of their depth, can only look on in fear, admitting they don't know much about such things. One of the thugs tries to appeal to Aota's ego, suggesting that even if the salaryman is a skilled martial artist, a professional like Aota would surely see through his moves and beat him up. In a sudden explosion of violence, Aota delivers a devastating kick to the face of the thug who just spoke, sending him flying backward. "Let's see," he mutters, his face a grim mask. As the thug lies unconscious on the ground, Aota looks down at him with contempt. "All of a sudden, you've changed your idea about my strength, huh?" he asks sarcastically. Aota clarifies that he's not forgiving them for their failure. Instead, he's become interested in this mysterious salaryman. He boasts about his own physical prowess, his height, leg length, and kicking speed, confident he can crush any opponent. Standing over his beaten subordinate, Aota makes a decision. He will handle this personally. "I'll get that guy instead of you," he declares to his terrified crew. The scene shifts. Mitsuo Akamori is walking down a brightly lit street at night, seemingly on his way home from work, when he perks up, having noticed something. His phone buzzes. It's a call from someone named Katsuragi. Akamori answers, confirming his identity as he walks. It's his boss, who greets him before immediately stating that he needs some important documents urgently. Akamori, maintaining his polite salaryman persona, says it's no problem. The boss specifies that he needs the planning documents for the strawberry chips released last year. Akamori confirms they're on his PC, but his boss's next demand adds a layer of pressure. He needs them sent right away, within 30 minutes. Akamori feels a headache coming on. He's not near any cafes or parks where he could work. He realizes with dread that to meet the deadline, his only option is to run home. His boss, oblivious to his predicament, presses him on the 30-minute deadline, even suggesting he should run. Trapped, Akamori can only agree, his face betraying his frustration. Sighing in resignation, Akamori concludes there's no other way. He has to run. But just as he's about to take off, a voice calls out, stopping him in his tracks. Akamori turns to find his path blocked. It's Aota Kinshun and his gang, the very thugs from the night before, staring him down. Aota steps forward, a hint of a smirk on his face. "Hey, salaryman, sorry for stopping you," he says, before asking if Akamori remembers what happened yesterday. Akamori, annoyed by the delay, retorts that he should be the one asking what's going on. One of the thugs excitedly confirms to Aota, "Why yes, this is him." Aota's eyes narrow, his expression a mix of curiosity and condescension as he scans Akamori from head to toe, trying to reconcile the monster from his men's story with the ordinary salaryman standing before him. The two face off in the quiet street. Akamori stands impassively, clutching his briefcase with an air of annoyance at being delayed. Aota continues his intense scrutiny, the disconnect growing between the terrifying legend he was told and the unimpressive man he sees with his own eyes. Aota continues to observe Akamori, noting that he doesn't seem to want to fight, and that his body looks weak and unsuitable for it. One of his thugs, however, begs him to deal with the salaryman, still terrified from their previous encounter. Aota explains that he has to beat Akamori up because his 3 men didn't show up for work yesterday. Akamori, looking down at his briefcase, seems to finally snap. He doesn't understand why he showed them mercy. In that instant, Akamori's entire demeanor shifts. The tired, unassuming salaryman is gone, replaced by a cold-blooded killer. His eyes are dark and empty as he says, "Maybe. I can find out after killing you." Aota is taken aback by the sudden transformation. He realizes with a start, "I got it now." He turned into a completely different person. So this is the guy who beat those three up. Aota repeats the same words he said to his subordinate earlier. "You are pretty unlucky today." But Akamori just looks at him blankly, questioning what he means by unlucky. Without another word, the former kickboxing champion, Aota, launches a powerful high kick aimed at Akamori's head. Akamori, however, effortlessly ducks under the attack. Before Aota can recover, Akamori hooks his foot behind Aota's standing leg, completely breaking his balance. With a simple, fluid motion, Akamori sweeps Aota's leg out from under him, sending the kickboxer crashing to the ground. The fight is over in an instant. Aota lies stunned on the pavement as Akamori stands over him, completely composed. Akamori looks down at the defeated Aota and says, "I don't get it." From the ground, Aota realizes this wasn't about luck. Akamori coldly informs him, "I would have killed you if I had to." A diagram illustrates the chilling truth behind Akamori's words. With his technique, he can simply kick and shatter a person's vertebral column. Aota looks up in horror as he sees Akamori's foot raised, as if to deliver that very killing blow. "Hold on, huh?" he stammers in disbelief. But Akamori just smirks. "Just kidding," he says, his salaryman persona returning. "I am a salaryman, right?" He tells Aota that today, he himself was unlucky, while Aota was very lucky to be spared. Then, with a final, chilling declaration, Akamori says, "I quit killing people." He checks his phone, remembering his boss's deadline, as Aota and his thugs can only stare in shock from the ground. As Akamori turns and rushes off, muttering about being late, it's revealed that the entire confrontation was witnessed. A bystander, hidden in the shadows, has been recording everything on his phone. With a look of sheer excitement and shock, the bystander quickly uploads the video to social media. The video is posted online. Almost instantly, comments start pouring in as the clip begins to spread like wildfire. The post goes viral. The numbers climb rapidly. 3,099 likes, 21 retweets. Comments flood in, calling him the strongest salaryman and the strongest in the area. People are in awe, questioning if it's fake or if he's a true master. The video becomes a sensation. It becomes the second trend, with the hashtag #BestSalaryman garnering over 7,700 tweets. On that day, the video amassed a staggering 77,000 views. But amidst the online craze, there was one person who found out the real truth. A karateka, sitting in his dojo, quietly watching the clip on his phone. He analyzes the footage, noting Akamori's sidekick. He realizes that the man in the video is no ordinary martial artist. A chill runs down his spine as he begins to understand. The video reaches the Nikaho Kenpo Kai, spreading through the martial arts underground. Soon after, two more boxers discover the truth. One of them shows the video to his superior, asking if it's what he thinks it is. The older man confirms, stating that it's still not too late. In dimly lit dojos and hushed corners of boxing gyms, the realization started to spread among martial artists all across Japan. From karate to ancient arts, masters of the fighting world were dissecting the viral clip. They all came to the same terrifying conclusion. The young man in the pixelated video was not an ordinary master. He was the living embodiment of a notorious and forbidden style, the personification of the infamous. From offices to apartments, all across the city, people are watching the video. The truth spreads through the underworld. The technique is not just any martial art. It's the notorious Shoshin Katsushiryu. Shoshin Katsushiryu, at its core, is a killing technique. It has been taught for centuries within the Akamori family, a lineage known as the Bloody Family. Its techniques, both offensive and defensive, are beyond normal human skill and focus on a single, lethal goal, destroying the cervical vertebrae. For hundreds of years, this dark art has been the sworn enemy of countless martial artists. Many fathers, teachers, and friends have been killed by its practitioners. A secret meeting of martial artists is held. The speaker addresses the packed room, explaining that despite being their sworn enemies, the Akamori family and their Shoshin Katsushiryu have remained hidden, with only whispers and shady witnesses of their acts, until now. The speaker declares that this new video evidence changes everything. The crowd listens with grim faces as he gives a chilling order for the man in the video, who is now just some guy walking on the streets. Kill on sight. His declaration made, the leader of the assembly crushes his phone in a fit of rage. The hunt has begun. The chapter ends with the unsuspecting Akamori. The sixth son of the Akamori clan has been found. As he rushes to his next destination, completely unaware of the danger, the martial arts world mobilizes to avenge their ancestors. Today he is truly unlucky. Chapter 3, Ordinary. The chapter opens by showing the impact of the previous chapter's events. A video of a man's incredible fighting skills has gone viral, amassing hundreds of thousands of views and likes. In a bar, a man with blonde hair excitedly asks the man who filmed the clip about the video's viral success. The man who recorded it, with long dark hair, seems smug about the attention, simply stating that if you walk around, you might see something interesting. A waitress asks the cameraman if he's been contacted by TV stations for an interview. He scoffs, saying he rejected them because they didn't offer any money. Just then, he gets a notification on his phone. He's flooded with direct messages. People are asking for more information about the video, where and when it was taken, and what the person in the video looked like. They are desperate for details. One message catches his eye. It's from an anonymous account, expressing a strong desire for more information and making a tantalizing offer. We are willing to pay. The offer is a staggering 20 million yen, displayed along with a picture of stacks of cash, leaving the man in stunned silence. The next day, the scene shifts to a cafe. Mitsuo Akamori, the man from the viral video, is back in his salaryman persona, discussing a new product presentation with his colleague, Kashiwa Keat. Kashiwa thanks him, saying she's learning a lot and wishes him luck. Akamori, maintaining his quiet demeanor, apologizes for always leaving the note-taking to her. Akamori offers to help Kashiwa with any questions she might have, causing her to get a bit flustered. In the background, they overhear other patrons discussing the news. The patrons are talking about a recent incident nearby where a man attacked a police officer with a knife. They mention that the suspect is still on the run. The conversation then shifts to an even more shocking event, a murder that occurred today. Akamori overhears this, his expression unchanging as he continues to review his documents. Kashiwa, worried by the news, asks Akamori if he isn't scared. He looks up at her, seemingly unfazed by the disturbing conversation they just overheard. Akamori calmly replies, "Why wouldn't I?" He then explains that he must have zoned out, claiming it's been a while since he lost his feelings, a strange comment that he quickly attributes to overworking. Kashiwa laughs it off, telling him he's working too much. Akamori smiles weakly, admitting he usually does get scared and that it makes him want to go home whenever he hears things like that. He suggests walking with Kashiwa to the station, but she assures him she'll be all right. Trying to act normal, Akamori comments on how they often sit together at the cafe and sometimes go home together. He then makes the situation incredibly awkward by adding, like lovers, which causes a startled Kashiwa to spit her drink all over the table. Kashiwa, blushing and flustered, tells him people don't normally joke about things like that. Akamori immediately realizes his mistake, internally panicking and telling himself he needs to act normal. Trying to salvage the situation, Kashiwa nervously calls him airheadly funny. Akamori forces a laugh, agreeing with her as she tries to compose herself. Akamori apologizes, saying he says weird things sometimes. Kashiwa playfully pats his head, calling him airhead-kun. For a brief moment, Akamori's eye reveals a flicker of his true, intense nature. Just then, their senior colleague, Katsuragi, approaches. He tells Kashiwa that while Akamori is a hard worker, he's also a total airhead that dumbfounds everyone, and she should get used to it. Kashiwa seems intrigued and wants to hear more. Akamori tries to shut the conversation down, but Katsuragi, eager to gossip, claims it was even worse when Akamori first joined the company. Katsuragi recounts a story from the past. He mentions another colleague took a day off after his father passed away. Akamori, a new employee at the time, seemed confused and started taking notes, questioning what was happening. In the flashback, an exasperated Katsuragi asks Akamori if he even knows what taking a day off because of mourning is, shocked by his cluelessness. Back in the present, Katsuragi once again calls Akamori an airhead. Kashiwa seems sympathetic, while Akamori quietly states that with all due respect, he doesn't think he's the one in the wrong. Akamori attempts to justify his lack of social understanding by explaining that things like mourning weren't taught at his university. The statement is so literal and odd that it only reinforces his airhead reputation in the office. As Akamori enters the subway station, his cold eyes scan his surroundings. He notices the increased police presence, a response to the recent incidents in the area. He internally notes the heightened security, questioning if such incidents are truly not normal. He sighs, reflecting that despite his efforts to learn how to be normal over the years, there are still things he doesn't understand. As the train arrives, his thoughts drift to his family. He doesn't hold grudges, but because of his upbringing, he admits to himself that he truly hates his father. This triggers a flashback. A younger Akamori sits before his father, the master of their dojo, and says he wants to quit killing people. His father questions this sudden inner conflict, stating it's not like him and that it means losing his very reason for existence. The master coldly suggests that at 16, Akamori couldn't carry the burden of killing 1,000 martial artists. But Akamori replies that it's not that. It's that whenever he kills someone, he feels a part of himself fading away. His father asks if he feels empty or weak. He tells Akamori that the previous day's match decided his fate. He gives him an ultimatum: leave the dojo, blend in, and live in society. A shocked Akamori asks if his father won't oppose his decision. The master states he couldn't care less, but warns him that he can't escape the never-ending struggle destined for their family. The flashback ends. Back in the present, Akamori stands on the train, holding his briefcase. He reaffirms his resolution. He will live a normal life like a normal person and keep on living that way. Suddenly, his resolve is shattered. Out of nowhere, a man lunges at him, brandishing a knife with a terrifying scream. The subway attacker viciously stabs Akamori in the shoulder. Blood splatters as Akamori grunts in pain. The attacker grins with manic glee. The attacker manages to say, "Found you." As chaos erupts on the train, passengers scream in terror, shouting that someone has been stabbed and urging everyone to run and call the police. The bloodied attacker reveals his motive, screaming that Akamori killed his father 3 years ago, which led to his mother's suicide. He declares himself the first of many who are coming after Akamori and vows to kill him with his own bare hands. Ignoring his own wound, a chillingly calm Akamori looks at his trembling attacker and asks a terrifying question. Does it hurt? A reflection in the train window shows the stark contrast between the two men. Akamori, though bloodied, appears cold and analytical, while his attacker is frozen in fear and shock. The subway attacker stands over Akamori, who has seemingly collapsed to the floor, still clutching the bloody knife. But Akamori was merely picking up his briefcase. He rises to his feet, his suit stained with blood, looking more annoyed than injured. A shot from the viral video is shown, connecting his current actions to his hidden identity. The attacker realizes his mistake, his eyes widening in terror as he recognizes Akamori from the viral video. "You're that guy," he screams. Before the attacker can react, Akamori's instincts take over. He effortlessly blocks the knife, strikes his opponent's arm, and delivers a devastating blow to the face, all while calmly asking if these kinds of things will show up on his commuter pass. The knife clatters to the floor. Akamori stands over the unconscious attacker, holding the weapon. He complains to the horrified crowd that this is all very exhausting for a simple salaryman. The surrounding passengers stare in stunned silence, looking from the defeated attacker on the ground to the blood-splattered salaryman who took him down with such brutal efficiency. Akamori calmly walks through the terrified crowd as they whisper in disbelief, questioning what just happened and how the attacker was defeated so easily. Akamori's primary concern is not the fight, but that he might miss Episode 7 of Jin Teru due to the train being delayed. He looks around, relieved that none of his colleagues witnessed the incident. As police rush into the station, Akamori calmly walks past them and exits through the turnstiles, melting back into the city. A frantic witness tries to explain to a police officer what just transpired, stammering that a passenger took the attacker down in an instant before leaving in a hurry, but he's too shaken to give a clear description. Meanwhile, having escaped the chaotic scene, Akamori walks up the station stairs, briefcase in hand. He thinks to himself that he's getting tired of this violent life and resolves to take a taxi to continue his ordinary evening. As Akamori hurries away, he suddenly notices that a button from his shirt is missing, likely torn off during the struggle. Cursing his bad luck, he glances back, then continues running for his taxi, thinking it's not too late. Unbeknownst to him, a group of imposing men in suits have been watching him from a distance. Their leader, a man with a prominent scar on his face, identifies their target, remarking, "That's our guy? He is an Akamori. Looks like it was worth 20 yen." The leader orders his men to follow Akamori. One of them asks if they can truly beat their ancestors' enemy. With confidence, the leader simply replies, "I believe you can." The true leader of the group, a calculating man with round glasses, steps forward. He holds the missing button from Akamori's shirt. He states that even after all this time, the Akamori family is still known for its Shoshin Katsushiryu style. To stop this sixth son, he must act first class, because he is an ex-professional. The chapter ends, leaving Akamori's fate hanging in the balance. At the office, Mitsuo Akamori's colleagues crowd around a phone, watching the viral video of his fight on the train. His colleague Kashiwa Keat is shocked, exclaiming how dangerous it looks, while another coworker agrees, noting that although the man's face is obscured, he seems young. As the video continues to attract attention, Akamori looks on with a sense of dread. The shocking footage of his true abilities is now public, and as the chapter comes to a close, he can only mutter that he has a bad feeling about this. Chapter 4, titled Presentiment, begins. At a confectionery company, Kashiwa Keat stares intently at her desk, struggling to come up with ideas for a new product. Just as she feels stuck, her senior colleague arrives for the day. The colleague, Mitsuo Akamori, notices Keat's distress and asks if she's looking for ideas for the upcoming meeting. When she admits she doesn't know what to write, he offers to show her his own idea sheet as a reference, much to her gratitude. Keat is amazed by Akamori's idea sheet for a vulture chocolate. It's incredibly detailed, complete with charts on baldness rates and scientific classifications of vulture species. The drawing of the vulture is so intense and realistic that it startles her. Keat finds the idea both fresh and scary. Another colleague asks what data supports the 85% bald statistic. This is the same Akamori who, just the day before, had brutally beaten up an attacker on a train, a fight that was recorded and has now gone viral, exposing him to the criminal underworld. The peaceful office atmosphere is broken when another colleague, Katsuragi, approaches Akamori. He brings up the news that's been on all channels since yesterday, a fatal attack on a train right near their location. Katsuragi casually mentions that he was going to ask Akamori about the incident, remembering that he was on that train at the time. He remarks that he didn't expect the situation to be so serious. A nervous Akamori quickly tries to distance himself, claiming it happened on the train behind his. But Keat, who has seen the footage online, thinks to herself that he's lying. As Akamori sweats, trying to maintain his normal facade, his colleagues recall more details. Katsuragi remembers hearing that the passenger didn't just stop the attacker, but left him half dead. The conversation shifts as a colleague reveals the incident was captured on video and is all over the internet. People are debating whether the passenger is the strongest salaryman, and a second video titled Delinquent vs. Strongest Salaryman has also appeared. Akamori is horrified as his colleagues pinpoint that the strongest salaryman is him. He begs them not to watch the violent footage, but they ignore his pleas and excitedly decide to play the video. The scene shifts to a dark alley where bodies lie scattered and unconscious. A man with long black hair, Yusuke, stands amidst the carnage, expressing his annoyance that these delinquents were pretending to be part of his group. The man, Yusuke Dogen, leader of the Shinjuku Savage Hangir, confronts his second-in-command, Aota Kenshin. Yusuke is furious that the viral video of Aota being beaten by a salaryman Akamori, is making their organization look weak and underestimated. Yusuke tells Aoda, a former junior kickboxing champion, that he needs to get rid of his pride. To drive the point home, he offers him a Walther PPS pistol, suggesting that being disrespected is not enough of a reason to get himself killed. Infuriated by the insult, the hot-headed Aoda snatches the gun and aims it at his leader's head, threatening to kill him. Unfazed, Yusuke calmly tells him that's enough. Their confrontation is interrupted by the arrival of another group. Their leader, Gozu Tanaka of the Omegumi Yakuza organization, addresses Yusuke directly, calling him and his hangir followers nothing more than insects. Tanaka mocks Yusuke, asking if he fired one of his men for the hilarious crime of getting his ass handed to him by a simple salaryman. As Tanaka's men erupt in laughter, Yusuke seethes with silent rage. Aoda is restrained by one of the Yakuza, forced to endure the humiliation. Yusuke confronts Tanaka, questioning his intentions. Tanaka gives a veiled response, mentioning that the anti-gang laws have their hands tied and that they might need the hangir's help in the future, implying they are to be used as tools. Tanaka laughs, saying he's grateful for the entertainment the video provided. He then condescendingly pats Aoda on the head, telling him to be happy that he received his thanks. Aoda trembles with suppressed fury. His face is a mask of pure hatred as he glares, his lips parting to speak. Finishing his thought, Aoda looks at the Yakuza boss and quietly states, "You are really unlucky today." Tanaka, now wearing sunglasses, turns back, asking what he just said. In a sudden explosion of violence, Aoda unleashes a devastating kick, catching Tanaka square in the face. The Yakuza underlings scream out for their young leader as he's sent flying, blood erupting from the impact. The brawl ignites. Fueled by pure rage, Aoda continues his assault, throwing a flurry of brutal kicks and punches at Tanaka's men while screaming, "Don't fuck with me, you piece of shit." However, Aoda's furious attack is stopped with shocking ease. A man with glasses, who had been standing with the Yakuza, effortlessly blocks the front kick. He calmly remarks that using such a kick was expected from an experienced kicker, leaving Aoda stunned and off balance. The man with glasses looks down on the former champion with a cold, analytical gaze. He tells Aoda that while his feet are a weapon, he uses them like an amateur. Before Aoda can even process the insult, the man moves. In a single, fluid motion, he steps past the kick, locks Aoda's legs, and presses the tip of a pen against his throat. Aoda is completely neutralized, as the man advises him to use everything he has in a real fight. Aoda is in utter disbelief, his body frozen. He realizes with horror that the man had read his moves perfectly and reacted instantly. The Yakuza leader, Gozu Tanaka, orders them to stop. The man with glasses calmly agrees, turning to Yusuke to talk business. Tanaka finally reveals his true motive. He states that the salaryman who defeated Aoda is a member of a family that was once the Umegumi's sworn enemy. He then gestures to his associate, introducing him as the organization's private hitman. The hitman, completely composed after the brief altercation, adjusts his tie as he is formally introduced, Guma Kujimata. The word hitman sends a chill through Aoda and Yusuke. They are in disbelief, having assumed Mata was just some ordinary man. The gravity of their situation and the danger Akamori is in suddenly becomes terrifyingly clear. His point made, Guma Kujimata prepares to leave. He coolly states that his name is just an alias, and that he hopes they can meet again, a clear, ominous threat that leaves the hangir members speechless. At the office, Akamori's colleagues show him a video that has been circulating online. On the screen is a clip of his own fight. His colleagues are a mix of amazed and concerned, commenting on how dangerous the situation looks and trying to guess the identity of the man in the video. Akamori, however, is frozen in shock, staring at the screen as his carefully constructed normal life begins to crumble. Sweating and filled with dread, Akamori can only agree that it's a shocking video, a terrible premonition washing over him. As his colleague talks, his mind scrambles for an escape, bizarrely thinking about an idea for bald eagle-shaped chocolate he'd discussed earlier, a desperate, absurd attempt to cling to the mundane office life that is now slipping through his fingers. The chapter ends on his terrified face. His past has finally caught up to him. The scene opens in a dimly lit office where the man with round glasses reports to his superior about their target, Akamori. He notes that Akamori has become cautious, but his boss is growing impatient, stating that a week has already passed and demanding to know the status of their plan. The man with round glasses calmly states they are fully prepared for war. However, another associate, unconvinced, suddenly draws a pistol and points it at him, questioning his resolve. The gunman threatens the man with round glasses, claiming he paid a fortune for the weapon and that powerful overseas mafias are after their target, emphasizing the high stakes of their mission. In a blur of motion, the man with round glasses proves his superiority. He deflects the gun, simultaneously striking the gunman's arm, causing the weapon to discharge harmlessly away from him as he neutralizes the threat. Having effortlessly disarmed his aggressive colleague, the man with round glasses pins him to the ground. He scoffs internally, lamenting that if only all his enemies were this weak, he wouldn't have any problems. Assured of his plan, the man with round glasses states that no matter how careful the target is, he will eventually have to lower his guard. He confidently declares to his associates that the target will be dead within 3 hours. The scene shifts to the target himself, Mitsuo Akamori. Completely unaware of the plot against him, he maintains his cover as an ordinary, cheerful office worker. Back at the office, Akamori's colleague, Kashiwa Keat, is being praised for her work. She modestly claims she was just lucky, while Akamori observes the interaction with a neutral, almost detached expression. The mundane reality of Akamori's cover life is shown as he despairs over a bizarre work idea for a bald eagle-shaped chocolate, startling his colleague with his sudden frustration. The office brainstorming session dissolves into chaos. While Kashiwa supports Akamori's idea, he lies dejected on the floor as other colleagues propose even stranger concepts, like cockroach crackers. Suddenly, Kashiwa remembers and calls out to Akamori, reminding him about an interview scheduled for 2 p.m. Akamori, who seems to have forgotten, is caught by surprise. As Akamori gets up to leave, Kashiwa wishes him good luck. She mistakenly believes the interview is for a company article, completely unaware it's a meticulously planned trap. As a parting shot, Akamori playfully tells Kashiwa not to forget his bald eagle-shaped chocolate idea, much to her annoyance. It's a final moment of levity before he walks into the lion's den. The interview begins. Akamori is led into a room by the man with round glasses, who is now posing as an interviewer. Sensing the tension, Akamori asks how long it will take. The assassin gives a chilling response. Covering his mouth, he states that 10 minutes would be more than enough to conclude their business, leaving no doubt about his lethal intentions. The assassin begins the interview by confirming Akamori's identity, addressing him as the legendary killer, Rokiro. He smiles, seemingly amused to finally meet the man behind the myth. The assassin boasts about his methods, explaining how easy it is to bypass security by simply abducting an employee and stealing their access card to gain entry and confidential data. Maintaining his cover, the assassin asks a generic interview question about training new graduates, continuing the facade before he makes his move. The assassin lectures his target, explaining that the difficulty of an assassination isn't the killing itself, but the perfect execution of the technique. He reveals his hand, detailing his cunning plan to attack from below using a blade hidden in the tip of his shoe, a move he believes will be impossible to see or counter. The assassin reveals his final trump card, a pen filled with palotoxin, a poison so potent it can kill instantly. Confident in his flawless plan, he smugly thinks to himself, too easy. Just as the assassin lunges forward to deliver the fatal blow with his shoe blade, Akamori calmly asks what the hardest part of the job is, baiting his opponent. In a shocking twist, Akamori kicks the table upwards, blocking the hidden blade. He answers his own question, stating that interferences like this are the hardest part of his job, turning the assassin's confidence to dust. The assassin's intricate plan is shattered in an instant. Thrown completely off balance, his confidence crumbles into disbelief as he stumbles backward, unable to comprehend how Akamori could have possibly seen through the hidden attack. Without a moment's hesitation, Akamori flows from defense into a calculated offense. He dodges the clumsy follow-up strike and weaponizes his environment, fluidly grabbing a nearby office chair to press his advantage against the stunned assassin. Akamori slams the chair down on the downed assassin. The assassin admits he'd been paying close attention, noting Akamori's unnaturally stable center of gravity. Akamori retorts that as a professional himself, he can read his opponent's moves, revealing he was aware of the surveillance all along. The assassin realizes with horror that Akamori intentionally left an opening to lure him into a trap. As his opponent fumbles for the poison pen, Akamori internally compares the tension to his last kill, someone from the Ministry of Defense. In a last-ditch effort, the assassin manages to assemble a hidden pen gun. He aims it at Akamori, a smug look on his face despite being beaten, and says he really didn't want to have to use it. Akamori is momentarily shocked by the unexpected weapon, but the shot misses. Akamori has already dodged and disarmed him again. As the assassin lies defeated on the floor, Akamori coldly reminds him that his murderous intent is indiscriminate in a public office. The assassin just laughs, promising to compensate him with a bullet to the head. The chapter ends on this chilling threat. Chapter 6. Carelessness. A man lies defeated on the ground amidst a bloody scene. His associate looks on as another man, a hitman, walks away. The associate remarks that the strongest mafia in the U.S., the Luciato family, employs the most evil hitman as their bodyguard. The hitman, Bugs Silva, laughs, saying he should get additional payment for the 3 he's killed. His associate, Matagoma, agrees, although he questions if this was all just a test of Silva's true strength. Matagoma is stunned by the scene of carnage. He can't comprehend the strength that seems to defy logic, as Silva stands there having dispatched multiple men. Matagoma asks how he did it, noting that it's unrealistic for even a professional hitman to instantly kill 3 heavyweight black belt judoists without a single scratch. Silva explains his simple logic. He claims they were simply careless. He waits until the target gets comfortable, and then he strikes. That is what a hitman needs to do. He elaborates that there are several types of careless people. The first are those who think they won't be targeted, and the next are those who think they won't get killed. Lastly, he mentions those who think they can protect themselves or even turn the tables. Matagoma quietly concedes the point. Matagoma admits that even after Silva has revealed his methods, the friendly aura he creates is disarming, making even him feel careless around him. Matagoma then brings up Akamori, asking if Silva's logic would still apply if he's active. Silva adjusts his glasses, pondering the question. Silva admits that for famous martial artists from a school of actual combat, his logic generally doesn't apply. He implies that's a different story altogether. In his mind, Silva visualizes a fight with such a martial artist, Mitsuo Akamori. He notes they aren't careless and that real combat isn't easy, as Akamori instantly attacks, throwing him off balance. The visualization continues. Akamori doesn't hesitate. He attacks only to kill. Silva imagines his ID card flying as he's thrown to the ground. Silva thinks about how even these professionals have rare moments of carelessness, for just a second, and that's the moment he would exploit. He notes that this brief lapse in concentration typically happens to highly experienced professionals. When that moment comes, he would use the Haishin Kasatsu Ryu. He pictures himself delivering a decisive blow, a technique he calls the Calamity Terminator. But in his simulation, the tables turn instantly. Akamori dodges, and Silva is the one left shocked and vulnerable. Akamori stands over him, stating that his shallow tactics are useless. He declares that this is the end. However, Silva's train of thought continues. He reasons that people get careless because they appear stronger and are assured of victory. At that moment, he would use his trump card. He reveals his hidden weapon, a modified aluminum dagger concealed on his finger, ready to be deployed. Silva explains this is a tool for modern hitmen, a product of the latest science and technology, designed for a counterattack that goes beyond common sense, especially against a martial artist confident in their victory. But once again, his imagined scenario is thwarted. Akamori effortlessly catches his hand, telling him he can't even touch a real martial artist with a toy like that. Silva is left in disbelief. Akamori calmly explains that with just a single punch, he has already injured Silva's mastoid, mandible, and atlas, vital points that will stop his body from moving for a while. Akamori declares Silva's loss, telling him it's unfortunate, but he has underestimated what true martial arts are. He doesn't know who hired the man, but he assumes it was due to the viral videos. He scoffs at his opponent's recklessness, noting that the world he sees and the world his opponent lives in are completely different. Suddenly, a sharp knock echoes from a nearby door. The unexpected sound startles Akamori, breaking his intense focus. A hesitant voice from the other side asks, may I come in?" causing him to react with bewildered shock. The scene snaps back to reality, in the office meeting room. A female colleague opens the door, apologizing and reminding Akamori that the room is booked from 3 p.m. Slightly annoyed, Akamori asks them to wait outside for just 2 minutes. He sighs, gesturing dismissively and telling them he doesn't have time to play with them. He turns back to his work. His expression darkens as he states that he's so busy because it's a life-or-death situation. The scene then cuts to Bugs Silva, sweating and grim-faced, revealing the true, less glorious end to his confrontation. As the cityscape transitions from day to night, Akamori's internal monologue concludes that he and the people around him truly do live in different worlds. Elsewhere, on a skyscraper rooftop, a woman identifies herself as a UN secret agent. She reports unfortunate news over the phone. Matagoma has failed his assassination mission, and therefore, her own plan to kill Matagoma after he dealt with Akamori has also failed. Her contact on the phone asks about the stupid hitman's location, to which she replies that she's finished him off already. The new order is clear: get rid of Akamori before anyone else does. The agent lets out a small laugh, perplexed by the instruction to eliminate Akamori before anyone else. She walks away, reflecting on how Akamori's killing of a skilled hitman has made him popular. She realizes that now, it won't just be people seeking revenge who will come after him. The scene shifts to a bustling city street at night. A woman asks a man about the fate of the hitman, and he confirms that according to the information, no one has heard a word from him since, suggesting things are about to get exciting. Nearby, a stylish blonde woman sips her drink as her phone buzzes. In the background, someone loudly proclaims that no one cares if a hitman gets killed. She glances at the message. It's a warning for someone named Zen Kuma from the hitmans of Omagumi, stating that Matagoma has repeatedly screwed up trying to assassinate Akamori. The woman finds the carefree emoji at the end of the dire warning peculiar. The threat level escalates as mysterious, hooded figures are seen walking through an airport, their target clear: Akamori. A group of men in black suits stand on an airport tarmac, saluting as their captain disembarks from a private jet. He tells them to hurry and show him the way. The captain declares that the fuse has been lit. Martial artists and fighters from different countries have already infiltrated Japan. The one who manages to defeat Akamori will be crowned the strongest. The final panel shows Akamori, oblivious, still focused on his computer screen as the chapter ends. The chapter begins, ominously titled 100 Foolproof Ways for a Capable Employee to Win. Akamori and a mysterious woman with reddish-brown hair are shown, hinting at the upcoming conflict blending his office life with his secret one. A woman approaches from the doorway, asking if the room is available. Akamori apologizes for the delay, making up an excuse that he broke a fluorescent light and that she should use a different room. A woman with long, dark hair suddenly appears, confronting the man with glasses. She mocks him, calling him a disgrace to be called a legendary assassin. He seems to recognize her, but she cuts him off, correcting him. No, all Bugs Silva. The confrontation escalates as the woman, Lily, presses a knife to the man's throat. He asks how she knows his name, but she ignores him, revealing that both he and Akamori have been added to the United Nations target list. She introduces herself as Lily, a United Nations secret agent tasked with eliminating evil. The man cynically remarks that she seems to be enjoying her supposedly righteous work a little too much. The man reveals his final gambit. He tells Lily she's mistaken about the kill order. He has already sent a signal to his former organization, the Luciato family, falsely reporting that he was defeated by Akamori, which will attract countless fighters seeking to claim Akamori's head. The man collapses, blood spurting from his neck as he dies from a poisoned pen. Lily coldly calls his suicide a clever revenge. Watching from the shadows, Akamori finds the impending chaos amusing. The next day at the office, Akamori's colleague, Kashiwa, approaches him with concern. She points out that he's spilled his coffee, but the stain on his collar looks suspiciously like blood. Akamori walks away from Kashiwa, his senses still dulled. He panics internally, remembering the bullet hole, the pen gun, and the broken light from the fight. He worries about being fired if anyone saw the mess in that room. Returning to the room, Akamori is shocked to find it perfectly clean. He wonders who could have possibly cleaned it, questioning if the assassin did it. He's bewildered to see the fluorescent light is brand new and a painting now covers the bullet hole. Someone is cleaning up after him, but he has no idea who or why. His colleague, Katsuragi, interrupts his thoughts, questioning the state of his shirt. Seeing that the room is clean, he dismisses his concern and tells Akamori to stop slacking and get ready for a drinking party with the boss. The scene shifts to a lively izakaya, where the office team is having a drinking party. The boss reminds them that as long as he's here, even this is considered work and encourages everyone to order something. Akamori internally recites rules from his book, 100 Foolproof Ways for a Capable Colleague to Win. He believes a person's social skills are judged at these parties and resolves to follow the book's advice on ordering food suitable for the older guests. Following the book's advice to get something light and refreshing, Akamori confidently orders, only to be presented with a large ice cream parfait. His colleagues stare in stunned silence. Akamori realizes his mistake, mortified that he followed the book too literally. His boss and Katsuragi, however, laugh it off, saying he's just doing his usual strange thing. Akamori tries to regroup, thinking he can still recover. As the party continues, his colleague Kashiwa gets drunk and cheerful. Meanwhile, a waiter wearing a headband looks on with an intense expression, annoyed at the lively group. Katsuragi points out that Akamori is the one who gets drunk after only 3 drinks. Feeling sick, Akamori gets up to go to the toilet, wondering why his alcohol tolerance is so low. As Akamori heads up the stairs, a man in a black coat suddenly lunges at him from behind, aiming a powerful blow at his head. Despite being drunk, Akamori's instincts take over. He swiftly blocks the surprise attack, catching the assailant's shoe just before it connects. The attacker stumbles back in surprise. The attacker, identified as Lee Jae-hwan, commends Akamori's block but calls him careless for getting drunk in his situation. Lee Jae-hwan reveals that he has brought a large group of people, and they found Akamori for his death. Akamori assesses the situation, realizing he's facing a troublesome enemy and too many opponents in a public place. He decides he has to fight as long as his colleagues don't find out. Just as the confrontation is about to explode, Kashiwa appears at the bottom of the stairs, calling out for Akamori. He tells Lee Jae-hwan to take the fight outside. Kashiwa asks what all the fuss is about, putting Akamori in a terrible position. He internally panics, realizing that if Kashiwa witnesses the fight, his cover will be blown. He desperately tries to figure out a way to de-escalate the situation without revealing his true nature. Before Akamori can react, Lee Jae-hwan violently kicks a nearby table, sending it crashing to the floor. The sudden commotion startles the other patrons, creating a deliberate and chaotic diversion. To everyone's surprise, a new challenger with curly hair appears, telling Lee Jae-hwan that he has something important to tell him. Akamori is shocked, recognizing this newcomer from a past encounter. The curly-haired man ignores Lee Jae-hwan and focuses on Akamori, recognizing him from a previous confrontation and asking why he is here. Lee Jae-hwan tells the newcomer to get lost, but the curly-haired man threatens to kill him if he interferes, his eyes locking with Lee Jae-hwan's in a tense standoff. The situation on the stairs grows more intense. Akamori tries to shield Kashiwa from the danger, while the newcomer coldly tells her that she's very unlucky to be here today. The curly-haired man declares he has urgent matters to attend to and gives Lee Jae-hwan an ultimatum: get out of his sight or die. The chapter ends on this cliffhanger. The scene shifts, revealing an old man in a luxurious apartment overlooking the city. He monologues that they have finally sent Jae-hwan to Japan, calling him a revenge machine that has been 20 years in the making. The old man pours a drink, revealing the depths of his plan. Jae-hwan's entire life was engineered for one purpose: to kill the Akamori clan, fueled by strict training and human growth hormones, all to accomplish the old man's revenge for his own son. As Chapter 8, Murderous Foot Technique, begins, The old man sits in a room filled with martial arts trophies. He reflects that the monster he created, Jae-hwan, is far stronger than his late son, who was once a national hero. A glimpse into Jae-hwan's brutal training is shown, a destroyed wall and scattered weights. The old man concludes that such a monstrous power cannot be made public. The scene snaps back to the tense three-way standoff on the stairs. Akamori has a look of intense worry, caught between two dangerous fighters and his blissfully unaware colleague. Akamori quickly covers Kashiwa's eyes, telling her she's an idiot and questioning if she intends to watch the fight. The curly-haired man taunts Lee Jae-hwan about fighting in front of a colleague, prompting Lee's group to decide to leave. Lee Jae-hwan stops the curly-haired man, telling him to go outside if he doesn't want to be kicked from behind. Reluctantly, the man agrees, leaving Akamori to deal with the situation. Now alone outside the restaurant, Akamori and Lee Jae-hwan finally face each other without interruptions. As Lee Jae-hwan casually stretches his neck, Akamori observes him with a serious expression, recognizing that his opponent is far from a normal person. The fight is interrupted once again by the curly-haired man. He states that his own business is urgent, and if Lee Jae-hwan insists on seeking revenge against Akamori, he'll have to go through him first. Without another word, the curly-haired man launches a surprise high kick aimed directly at Lee Jae-hwan's head. Lee Jae-hwan easily blocks the attack. The curly-haired man is stunned, revealing that his whole life has been for today, only to be so effortlessly stopped. The real fight begins. The two engage in a fierce exchange of kicks, with Akamori now relegated to the role of a spectator. The curly-haired man proves to be a formidable opponent. The curly-haired man is shocked by Lee Jae-hwan's incredible speed. He notes the abnormal sharpness of his kicks, which seem to fly from every direction, making them difficult to predict. He analyzes his opponent's style, realizing it's more than just kickboxing. Lee Jae-hwan possesses an extraordinary sense of balance and agility, which allows him to deliver continuous, whip-like kicks. Lee Jae-hwan unleashes a devastating taekwondo kick, demonstrating a different martial art and sending his opponent flying. As his opponent jumps back to create distance, Lee Jae-hwan, referred to as Aota, smirks with a mix of bewilderment and relief. Akamori watches the display of power with an intense gaze. The narration explains that while the public misunderstands Taekwondo, WTF, due to its point system, practical Taekwondo, ITF, is designed to be extremely damaging. Despite this, Aota still considers his own kickboxing superior. A technical diagram breaks down the conventional wisdom of martial arts matchups. Typically, Taekwondo's powerful but deliberate roundhouse kicks leave an opening. A skilled kickboxer can exploit this by countering with quick punches or low kicks before the full force of the Taekwondo kick can be delivered. However, the narration reveals a critical detail that shatters this conventional wisdom. Jae-hwan, driven by pure murderous intent, is no ordinary martial artist. The steel-toed safety shoes he wears are not for protection. They are weapons designed to turn his kicks into lethal blows. From the sidelines, Akamori analyzes the fight. The 2-kilogram steel-toed shoes that Jae-hwan wears daily would be shackles for a normal person, but for him, they turn his taekwondo into a deadly weapon. The heavy axe kick he delivered wasn't for sport. It was a killer's martial art, meant to crush his opponent's skull. However, the curly-haired man uses the kick's momentum to his advantage, grappling Jae-hwan. Despite the clear difference in power, an opportunity arises for the man. But just as a gap appears, Jae-hwan's murderous intent, fueled by his kickboxing pride, reignites. The fight is abruptly interrupted by the arrival of the police. They demand to know what's going on and order the two fighters to separate and get into the police car. As a crowd gathers, Jae-hwan glares at his opponent, vowing to kill him next time. Seizing the opportunity, the curly-haired man makes a run for it, leading the police on a chase and conveniently removing himself from the situation. Meanwhile, Akamori's group is leaving the restaurant. As Kashiwa suggests they walk home together, Akamori quickly fakes an important phone call to create distance, allowing him to deal with the remaining fighter, Jae-hwan. Kashiwa looks on, disappointed, as Akamori walks away, pretending to be on the phone. With this simple deception, he successfully separates his normal life from the violent world that constantly follows him. Akamori finds Jae-hwan squatting in an alley. Jae-hwan complains that he came all this way with fractures in his lower leg. Unsympathetic, Akamori simply asks, "What are you doing?" and tells him he should go to a hospital. Infuriated, Jae-hwan grabs Akamori, yelling that he had something important to tell him. He's also stressed because it's almost time for his last train. Annoyed by the outburst, Akamori shoves a wad of cash into Jae-hwan's hand, telling him it's for a taxi and to just stay with him for 30 minutes. Jae-hwan is left speechless by the unexpected gesture. Having calmed down, Jae-hwan agrees to listen. Akamori says he has one condition, then clarifies that it's less of a condition and more a part of Jae-hwan's responsibility. With a deadpan expression, Akamori reveals his bizarre request. "I don't know how to call a taxi. That's why you should call it for me. And buy me coffee too." Jae-hwan is utterly bewildered that this legendary killer lacks such a basic life skill, ending Chapter 8 on a comedic note. Chapter 9, titled An Honest Teacher, begins. Akamori stands on a bridge, reflecting that the day has been the worst. He casually asks Aota how he knows where he lives, and Aota replies that Akamori might be the only one who doesn't know. Aota reveals the grim truth. The hitman Akamori recently took down spread information about him throughout the criminal underworld in retaliation. His identity and location are no longer a secret. He explains that because Akamori is from a legendary martial artist family, people from all over the world hold grudges against him and are seeking him out. Akamori lets out a small, unimpressed heh. Aota finally gets to his reason for being there, stating it's a simple request concerning something called Fujin. Akamori seems to have heard the name before. Aota describes Fujin as a large-scale martial arts event that's been running for 4 years. While its rules are similar to kickboxing, it has no ranks or rules, and its primary selling point is death matches. He elaborates that winning Fujin brings enormous prize money and fame, making it the ultimate goal for fighters. Horrified, Akamori thinks Aota is asking him to participate and flatly refuses with a hell no. Aota quickly clarifies that he is the one who will be participating. He admits that, in his current state, he's nothing more than a trifling fighter, despite his title as a genius kickboxing champion. Looking at Akamori with desperation, he makes his ultimate request. Acknowledging that Akamori possesses the overwhelming strength of the greatest martial arts family, he begs, "Please, retrain me." Akamori's response is to simply turn his back and walk away. Aota, shocked by the cold rejection, frantically calls after him to listen. Yelling that he is serious, Aota explains his desperation. As a hangyer who has walked the wrong path in life, he needs a way to enter the limelight and have something to show for himself. He bows deeply, revealing his true motivation. He is doing all of this so that his sister can live a normal life. This earnest plea finally makes Akamori pause and look back. Akamori contemplates the word normal. He tells Aota he is not interested in his quest. However, he hesitates, not walking away completely. Akamori turns and offers a challenge. "You've got 1 minute. If you can inflict any damage on me within that time, I'll reconsider." Aota is taken aback by the sudden test. Akamori lists his handicaps. He's currently drinking, his foot is injured, and he won't counterattack. He advises Aota to come at him with all his power. Feeling underestimated, Aota becomes enraged and prepares to unleash his full strength as the 1-minute timer begins. Aota unleashes a furious barrage of attacks, but the seemingly ordinary Salaryman dodges every blow with ease. Akamori thinks to himself that he feels like he might die, all while silently demonstrating the secret to being truly powerful. Akamori effortlessly catches Aota's punch, pointing out that his strikes are weak when his foot is out. With a simple push, he unbalances Aota, showing him that his attack was just a predictable reaction. After 1 minute, Aota lies defeated on the ground, having failed to land a single hit. Akamori stands over him, balancing a kin on his head, and delivers his verdict. Aota has no killing intent and isn't going all out. The phrase killing intent triggers a traumatic memory for Aota, a flashback to a time when he was surrounded by shadowy figures, the source of his hesitation in fights. The flashback reveals a younger Aota, cornered by delinquents. They recognize him as the popular leader of the kickboxing club and, despite having no personal grudge, are annoyed by his reputation. The bullies reveal their true purpose. They were hired to break his legs. One cruelly mentions his little sister, threatening that it's already over for her, revealing the deep-seated trauma that drives Aoda's actions. Fueled by this painful memory, Aoda lunges at Akamori again. Akamori dodges, and Aoda's steel-toed shoe smashes into the concrete wall, showing he still has the will to fight. Aoda continues his desperate assault with a tackle, but Akamori easily sidesteps him. As the final seconds of the minute tick down, it's clear Aoda is completely outmatched and can't even land a touch. With a simple, elegant move, Akamori trips Aoda, sending him rolling to the ground. He condescendingly asks, "You rolled pretty well each time, huh?" Akamori begins his first lesson, explaining that Aoda needs to maintain stability, without which both his attacks and defenses are useless. He demonstrates this by effortlessly balancing a can on the tip of his shoe. He continues the lesson, stating that true stability comes from flexibility. By increasing the range of motion in the hip and knee joints, a fighter's offensive and defensive options increase dramatically. He adds that his own limbs are more flexible than even those of professional athletes. Now fully in the role of a teacher, Akamori points out that he's doing all of this while drunk and that Aoda should be grateful. Defeated but enlightened, Aoda gets into a push-up position, acknowledging that Akamori is, in his own way, an honest teacher. The scene shifts to 11:43 p.m. in front of the Akamori residence. Two figures, a man and a woman, are on a stakeout. The man complains that they've been waiting for hours. The man gets uncomfortably close to his partner, telling her not to be so uptight. She coldly rebuffs him, making it clear she's not interested. Shoving him away, the woman threatens to report his behavior. She then directs his attention elsewhere, telling him that if he's so bored, he should deal with the other people loitering around, revealing multiple groups are watching the house. The man spots another shadowy figure watching from a distance. With a smirk, he agrees that he could indeed do that, indicating a confrontation between the rival groups is about to begin. Back on the bridge, the reality of the situation hits Akamori. He panics, asking, "What?" "They're aiming for my family." Aoda confirms that the leaked information probably includes his address, workplace, and commuting route. Disgusted, Akamori tells him to wipe the vomit off his face. Overlooking the vast city lights, Aoda asks Akamori what he wants to do, offering his own house as a safe place to wait. Akamori can only lament that this has truly been the worst day, as the chapter ends, teasing the beginning of a bizarre communal life for the salaryman teacher and the criminal student. In a dimly lit parking lot, a group of imposing figures gathers. One of them, a man with long hair, notes with surprise the number of people they are facing. His accomplices, a motley crew of tough-looking men, stand ready. From the sidelines, a woman coolly assesses the situation, mentioning a mysterious figure named Hulk as she plans their first move. The scene introduces two key players, revealing how the strong spend their free time. Yuna Tsukino, a 23-year-old special investigator for the National Police Agency, stands with a composed, analytical expression. Beside her, her colleague Tsuyoshi, aged 28, cracks his knuckles with a confident smirk, ready for action. One of the opponents steps forward, dismissively suggesting they can deal with the investigators right here and now. He arrogantly deems them small fry, oblivious to the swift, violent response about to be unleashed upon him. The fight erupts. Tsuyoshi effortlessly blocks a punch, commending the futile attempt. As his opponents signal their attack, Tsuyoshi engages his boxing skills, quickly and brutally taking down the first man. "One kill," he declares, the fight just beginning. Tsuyoshi's expression shifts to one of slight annoyance. This isn't the challenge he was hoping for. Another attacker lunges, but is quickly overpowered. Before he can even react, a third man, one of his own allies, pins him down, enraged at the display of weakness. In a shocking display of ruthlessness, the man who had his comrade pinned finishes the job himself, stomping his head into the pavement. 2 kills, the narration counts, highlighting the brutal efficiency of the takedown. The fight continues with another swift, brutal motion. Tsuyoshi moves in, this time with a knife, and strikes another opponent who cries out in pain. The action is quick and decisive. Yuno watches the chaos unfold, noting that pugilism and close-quarters combat don't mix. The man, surprised by the knife, still tried to counter every attack. But it was futile. A splash of blood hits a nearby wall, the sound capper echoing. The kill count rises to 3, and the name, Hulk, is uttered, identifying the mysterious and brutally efficient killer. Yuna is visibly shocked by the sheer effectiveness of the technique, while a bloodied Tsuyoshi recognizes the name Hulk. A new figure, a man with braided hair, steps into view, explaining that the martial art they just witnessed is a specialized countering style applicable to any situation. The man explains that he learned the technique, kapap, back in the army. It originates from Israel's Sayeret Matkal and is largely utilized by anti-terrorist organizations, shedding light on the deadly precision of the art form. Tsuyoshi observes that Hulk must also be a martial artist, though his pace is more like a boxer's. Without warning, Hulk demonstrates his speed, landing a clean punch on Tsuyoshi before the scene cuts away to the quiet, parked cars. Elsewhere, a woman speaks on the phone, likely the representative Yuna mentioned. She scoffs at the idea of the ever-mysterious Hulk, calling it a waste of time. She knows Akamori Ruku is returning and dismisses the person she is talking to, revealing a deeper, more complex game at play. The representative continues her call, musing that they may need to make use of the newbie after all, implying that the special investigators might not be necessary. She wonders aloud how this will all play out. Her words reveal the true nature of the special investigators. They are an organization that operates in the shadows, abducting, confining, and interrogating criminals. They forge evidence and do not balk at killing anyone who gets in their way. The representative laughs, calling it quite the threat before coldly uttering the word die. Suddenly, her expression changes. She adds one last thing to her conversation, her eyes wide with surprise as she mentions that their little Hulk has company. A shadow falls over her car, indicating someone's presence. The scene cuts back to the parking lot, where Tsuyoshi stands victorious over the defeated Hulk, warning Yuna not to take him so lightly. In her car, the representative watches this unfold on a screen, a sinister smile spreading across her face as she realizes the depth of the situation. The scene shifts to a luxurious, modern apartment. A man in a suit leads another man, Akamori, inside, telling him to stay there for a while. It's a safe house, a temporary refuge from the dangers outside. Inside, Akamori is impressed by the huge, expensive apartment. His host, now in a tank top, questions Akamori's hesitation. Akamori, however, remains wary and observant, his face a mask of contemplation. The host reveals his affiliation with the Shinjuku Savages, a hangir gang running illegal businesses. Akamori bluntly states that his host is the exact type of person he avoids in daily life. The host, in turn, admits he doesn't want this job to last long. The host, Aoda, reveals his vulnerability. He's constantly looking over his shoulder, worried about being caught or killed, and fears for his little sister's safety if she were to get caught in the crossfire. Akamori seems to dismiss Aoda's concerns, but Aoda quickly reminds him of their arrangement. "Didn't you dare forget you'd be training me." Aoda informs Akamori that he'll be living in the adjacent room once his foot heals. Akamori finds this a pain. Aoda clarifies that the arrangement, the training, is not just for his own sake, but for Akamori's as well. As Aoda walks away, he mentions that the place will be automatically locked up a couple of times a day, holding up a remote. "Are you making fun of me?" Akamori asks, skeptical of his new prison. The scene fades to the vast, glittering cityscape at night. 1 week later, the situation escalates on a global scale. UN intelligence officer Lily reports to her handler, confirming that their target, Akamori Ruku, has abandoned his home and is now in hiding with a hangir-affiliated man named Aoda. Lily's report grows more dire as she reveals that numerous organizations are aware of Akamori's location and are making their move. The stakes are raised exponentially as she confirms these aren't just local gangs. They include the special investigators and even the American P3 Army, turning this into an international incident. Lily's handler muses on the situation, concluding that as long as they can find Akamori Ruku, they have the green light to kill him. The objective is simple and direct. Lily, however, presents a complication. Killing Akamori now would escalate things, drawing the attention of his powerful father and brothers. Her handler, intrigued, asks for her alternative strategy. In the darkness, with only a glimpse of her lace lingerie, Lily reveals her one-word plan: seduction. From her new apartment, strategically located next to Akamori's, she elaborates on her mission. Her goal is to make Akamori Ruku fall in love with her. By becoming his trusted neighbor and lover, she will not only gain his confidence, but also create a direct line of contact with the rest of his formidable family, embedding herself deep within her target's inner circle. The story shifts. Over a meal, a young woman named Shirori is encouraged to attend karate practice. In another location, a young man boasts that with a 3-win streak in full-contact karate, he'll be the best whether he practices or not. The scene introduces Satoru Marukawa, the 48-year-old junior director of the Marukawa Assembly Hall. He tells his daughter that she hasn't seen true genius yet, hinting at the legendary house of Akamori. His daughter, intrigued, asks who this Akamori is that her father always talks about. Marukawa reflects on the past, a time when he was young and encountered an anomalous genius during an era where youths were drunk on power. Marukawa recounts a chilling memory. He had seen a boy already present in the dojo, Akamori Kazuo, a practitioner of the deadly session Kasatsudou. At just 8 years old, this child had slaughtered a karate practitioner, a sight that burned itself into Marukawa's mind. His daughter reacts with disbelief, but Marukawa insists he can never forget what he saw. He explains that now, Kazuo's little brother, Akamori Ruku, has emerged. Marukawa is left to wonder whether to envy this living legend or be inspired to strive for greater strength. The narrative pauses to recap. Akamori Ruku, a seemingly ordinary salaryman, is the heir to a deadly martial art and is being hunted by powerful forces. He's taken refuge with a gang member, Aoda, while a UN agent, Lily, has moved in next door with the intent to seduce him. The question hangs in the air. Is it not unbecoming for one so young to spill so much blood? A month has passed. Akamori reflects on his new, secluded life. To his surprise, it hasn't been so bad. But a lingering ellipsis suggests an unspoken, but a hidden dissatisfaction or looming threat. The scene reveals Akamori's training with Aoda. Aoda lies on the ground, having been knocked down. Akamori asks how long he plans to stay there. Aoda admits he got careless, to which Akamori coldly replies that being able to afford carelessness means he's still alive. Akamori advises Aoda that if he is going to use the technique, he needs more than just sparring. He needs to practice yoga daily. Aoda deflects, saying he'll go practice in his room, prompting a hey from Akamori. Akamori's patience wears thin. He questions why Aoda is ending practice early, reminding him that he's allowing him to live here. He challenges Aoda to a proper session, but Aoda dismissively tells him to do it himself, refusing to be led by a dumbass. Sometime later, Akamori and Aoda arrive at a large building. Aoda, demanding his room key back, asks where they are. Akamori reveals their location, the Marukawa Assembly Hall HQ, known as the greatest karate organization in the country. Aoda immediately assumes they are there to pick a fight, which would get them reported. Akamori corrects his dumbass assumption, stating they are there to learn from them, not fight them. He gestures for Aoda to follow him. As they approach, a man walking out of the building stops, recognizing the infamous name. He hesitantly asks, "Are you, by any chance, Akamori?" Aoda is taken aback when the man introduces himself as the director. Akamori feigns surprise at the coincidence. The director, however, cuts to the chase, stating that he has business with Akamori. Without warning, the director lunges at Akamori. He cryptically states that Akamori must be part of a private organization, and that perhaps he'll be the first, implying a challenge or a test. Akamori calmly sidesteps the social pressure, saying he'll have to pass on the offer. In a split second, the director changes targets, declaring the match is already decided and rushes towards Aoda. Aoda prepares to defend himself against the old man, but the director is not to be underestimated. He declares that after 40 years of pursuing strength through karate, he won't let this chance go to waste and unleashes an attack. The director's attack connects, but Aoda takes the blow, infuriated. He shouts, "Don't fuck with me." From the sidelines, Akamori delivers a blunt and unimpressed critique of the director's skills. His kicks are terrible. Back in the apartment, the lesson begins. Akamori deconstructs the fight with the director, explaining to Aota how to approach such an opponent. He points out that while the ex-kickboxing champion has power and experience, this makes his strategy predictable. The first step in countering him, Akamori advises, is to exchange blows to read his movements. Akamori then reveals the core principle of the technique. After the initial exchange of blows, the path to victory isn't a prolonged brawl. Instead, it hinges on a single, decisive action, taking the opponent completely by surprise. Akamori continues his lesson on a whiteboard, explaining the mechanics of an invisible kick. As the opponent leans back, the attacker raises their outstretched foot straight overhead to score a hit. He explains it's a twist kick, using the entire body, a technique so difficult that even experts deem it nearly impossible. The lecture continues. While a corkscrew kick is based on simple logic, Akamori emphasizes that true mastery requires a combination of timing, joint control, and flexibility. The scene flashes back to Aota landing a devastating blow. Akamori notes that while such a kick could make an opponent faint, it's not a one-hit kill. With the director dazed, Akamori points out Aota's next goal. If the fight continues barehanded, he must aim for the neck. This will not only allow him to hit anything as long as he gets around the opponent's defenses, but it will also lower their center of gravity and make them hesitate. Akamori explains a core principle of his martial art, Sesshin Kasatsuryu. By striking the carotid artery and stimulating the baroreceptor reflex, one can cause the opponent's blood pressure and heart rate to drop rapidly, inducing unconsciousness. Putting the lesson into practice, Aota delivers a powerful blow to the director's chest, a strike meant to pierce the heart. He asks Akamori if he did it right, but his mentor notes there were flaws. From the doorway, a voice gives an unsolicited critique. 40 points, I'd say. A new group arrives on the scene. A woman in sunglasses coolly observes the situation, realizing Akamori is training Aota. Her companion, a man smoking a cigarette, asks why she seems so angry and notes that she is also targeting Akamori. In response to his question, the woman wordlessly delivers a powerful high kick to her companion's face, sending him stumbling back. Looking towards the dojo, she states, "Maybe we should meet soon," making her intention to confront Akamori clear. Later that night, at 10:10 p.m., the city glitters outside Akamori's window. He lies on his bed, engrossed in a book, when the sound of his doorbell suddenly breaks the silence, startling him. Akamori opens the door, flustered, to find a woman he doesn't recognize. It's Lily, who apologizes for disturbing him and introduces herself as his new neighbor, putting her calculated plan into motion. Lily puts on a charming act, giving a shy wink as she apologizes for showing up without any prior notice. She plays the part of the innocent, friendly neighbor perfectly. When Akamori asks what's wrong, Lily spins a tale about scary bugs in her room. As she's about to ask for his help, Aota appears, interrupting the scene. Aota asks Akamori if he minds if he handles it, but Akamori's sharp gaze suggests he senses something is amiss. Aota, ever the gallant, offers to take care of the cockroaches, though he finds their presence on such a high floor to be rare. Lily reluctantly agrees, her plan to get close to Akamori temporarily thwarted. She resolves inwardly that she has decided on her next move. As Aota confidently tells her to leave it to him, Lily laments that the heart of a man is a difficult thing. Her initial attempt to infiltrate Akamori's life has hit an unexpected snag, forcing her to reconsider her approach. The scene shifts to Akamori's mundane office life. His colleague, Katsuragi, proudly shows a female co-worker pictures of his new apartment on his phone, boasting that he's already moved in and has a great view of Tokyo Tower. Katsuragi explains that his wife is visiting her parents, giving him the freedom of a leisurely lifestyle. This is why he decided to buy a house in Tokyo while he had the chance. A new chapter begins. The female co-worker asks who took the picture, and Katsuragi reveals it was his older sister, who was hosting a mixer at his new place. Akamori, annoyed, tells him to knock it off. The co-worker chides Katsuragi, calling him the worst for bringing women into the house while his wife is away. He stammers, trying to explain that they just meet up occasionally, but his defense is weak. Suddenly, the office door bursts open and Akamori rushes in, tripping over his own feet and crashing to the floor. His dramatic entrance makes it clear he is late for work. Katsuragi mocks him, asking if he ran a marathon. Their coworker notes that it's rare for Akamori to be late. Akamori, flustered, realizes he should have informed the section chief he would be working in the afternoon. Katsuragi assumes Akamori overslept, but he denies it. Akamori explains he was delayed by elevator rush hour. He'd woken up on time, but had to go back for something he forgot. He elaborates on the problem. The elevator for his apartment building simply wasn't coming down at all, leaving him stranded and causing his tardiness. As their female co-worker listens with interest, Katsuragi asks the logical question that's on both their minds. Just what floor does Akamori live on? Akamori nonchalantly replies, the 42nd. Katsuragi immediately erupts, accusing Akamori of lying and grabbing him by the collar. He demands to know where his apartment is. Akamori calmly reiterates that he lives on the 42nd floor in Akasaka, showing proof on his phone. His coworkers are stunned to see the monthly rent is a staggering 1,450,000 yen. Katsuragi suspects criminal activity, but Akamori coolly explains that due to certain circumstances, he is simply living there temporarily. The female co-worker philosophizes that a person's emotions can change with their residence, then makes an astute observation. Well, Akamori, you seem more peaceful lately, you know? The comment visibly startles Akamori. Akamori's co-worker continues to daydream about his luxurious apartment, imagining the amazing view from the communal deck. As Katsuragi jokingly threatens to report Akamori for being late, she dismisses him with an "Don't be like that." Katsuragi changes his tactic, threatening to tell on Akamori to his wife, earning a stern look from their co-worker. Meanwhile, Akamori sits at his desk, lost in thought, the word peaceful echoing in his mind. Akamori reflects on his situation. He'd expected constant attacks since information about him was circulating in the underground. Yet, in the months since moving, he has only been attacked by one person, the old karate master. He gazes out at the city and wonders if the heat has finally died down. The camera pans down the sterile, empty hallway of his apartment building, creating a deceptive sense of calm and security. Elsewhere, a group of special investigators monitors the situation. An operative reports that while many are on Akamori's tail, they are all keeping their distance. He also notes that the UN agent, Lily, seems to be far more than just a standard operative. The representative listens, understanding that they should avoid interfering with the UN's prey. His subordinate questions this, asking why they don't just eliminate everyone. The representative shuts him down, explaining that with unknown numbers and strength, even Hulk cannot afford to be careless. Suddenly, the representative's phone lights up with a call. The caller ID is a cheerful Yahoo. He answers, the click of the phone echoing in the quiet room. On the other end of the line is Lily. She coyly asks the special investigator if his job is going well, revealing she knows who he is. In the background, Hulk and Yuna look on as the representative realizes his cover is blown. He admits his job is not going well, thanks to her interference. Lily taunts him, suggesting her advice annoyed him and that she has the muscle heads wrapped around her finger. As she speaks, she insults him under her breath, confidently asserting her superiority in this complex game of espionage. The scene shifts to a park in Senran at 8:06 p.m. A man in a suit stands lookout near a public restroom, his purpose clearly surveillance. He waits patiently in the deepening twilight. The surveillance team communicates. One of them notes that Akamori has been inside the restroom for 45 minutes. Another jokes grimly about suicide. Their leader decides to investigate, but just then, Akamori calmly walks out, stating he couldn't sleep. As Akamori walks past the lookout, he strikes with blinding speed. Using a technique from Sesshin Kasatsuru, he incapacitates the man before he can even react, the silent park bearing witness to the sudden violence. The man crumples to the ground, his neck muscles rigid and his cervical spine damaged, unable to move for at least an hour. Akamori confirms that this was the man shadowing him. The defeated agent can only think one thing. I fucked up. Akamori questions the paralyzed man about his affiliation, but gets only silence. He remarks that peace never lasts. Deciding against a lethal blow, he warns the man not to come after him again and leaves him in the restroom. Akamori calmly exits the restroom as if nothing happened. The remaining members of the surveillance team are in shock as their comrade goes silent. An enemy had appeared from nowhere and vanished just as quickly. But his night is not over. As he leaves the park, his path is blocked by 3 new challengers. Each one looks at him with contempt, ready to test their skills against the legendary Akamori. The challengers surround him, each spouting their reasons for confronting him: past rivalries, orders from superiors, and the responsibility to face the masters he has buried. Akamori listens, disgusted by their pathetic justifications for violence. Having heard enough, Akamori silences them with a roar of "shut up." He unleashes a whirlwind of strikes, a single, explosive movement that simultaneously neutralizes all 3 opponents, sending them flying. A lone observer watches in the gloom as Akamori stands amidst the bodies of the fallen fighters. Unfazed, Akamori calmly picks up his briefcase, utterly unimpressed, and asks, "That's all you had to show?" Walking away from the carnage, Akamori leaves them with a final, chilling piece of advice. He stands over one of the groaning fighters and says, "At least come at me one at a time, a person a day." The aftermath of the night's events unfolds. A guard team reports that Akamori found them and one of their men was injured. Lily, on the phone, receives the intel that they were attacked, likely by Akamori himself. She simply replies, "Understood." Lily debriefs with her handler. Over the past month, 127 people have attempted to contact Akamori. With this information, the handler decides it's time to move to the next phase. After confirming all 127 have been identified, he gives the final order. Well, take all of them captive. Chapter 13 begins, titled Misunderstandings. An order is given to detain and confine subjects in the UN's underground detention facility. A woman responds with "understood" as she receives the message. On the phone, the woman, identified as Lily, confirms her status. The person on the other end asks how her plan to seduce Akamori is going, and she replies that she was just dealing with some people who got in the way of the Akamori operation. Lily reassures the person on the phone that there are no problems and they are attacking Akamori officially and personally, expecting to capture him soon. The caller tells her they'll be waiting. The caller praises Lily, telling her this is a job only she can do, with her expertise in combat, infiltration, inquiry, and the art of love. He tells her to bring back news of victory, and she confidently replies, "Yes, sir." The scene shifts to a corporate meeting room, where Akamori is giving a presentation. He explains that when a hippo is cut, its internals fly out. His colleagues look on in disbelief and disgust at his bizarre analogy for a candy product. Akamori continues his presentation, explaining that they will use very small red marshmallows inside the hippo-shaped candy. He calls this idea the hippo whirl. A colleague looks on, thinking Akamori has lost his mind. A colleague thinks to himself that while he would normally interrupt, he can't. The entire room is filled with tension as everyone stares at the presenter, wondering why they are making such a cruel candy. The reason for the tension becomes clear. The demon of marketing, the general department manager, has arrived. A colleague thinks that while he'd usually criticize everything, today he has to find a better way to handle the situation. Undeterred, Akamori continues, suggesting they add a red chocolate sauce to increase the realism of the candy when it's cut open. His colleague can only stare, completely speechless. The colleague wonders what the general manager thinks of this absurd proposal. He silently pleads for the manager to look at what's going on, as the rest of the team complains that they're wandering into territory they cannot venture into. The manager's intense, scary gaze sends chills down everyone's spine. Kashiwa Keat and her deskmate observe that he seems to be losing sight of a solution, and it's only a matter of time before he starts shouting, giving off Yakuza vibes. The manager, Marukawa, finally speaks, calling out Akamori's name. Akamori, however, seems to misinterpret the mood, telling Marukawa that his sensitivity isn't normal and bids him farewell. Against all expectations, Marukawa declares the idea is very good. The entire room, including Kashiwa Keat and her colleagues, is stunned into silence by the manager's unexpected praise. Marukawa elaborates, stating that while the idea seems bizarre, It has impact and great potential for social media buzz. He gives his thanks, though his subordinate still wonders where the potential even is. Later, at a cafe, Kashiwa Kid expresses her disbelief to Akamori about how things turned out. Akamori nonchalantly replies that things just turn out like that sometimes. As Akamori tells his colleague to celebrate in moderation and get back to business, a waitress accidentally spills a drink. The colleague, who thought the idea was good, is shocked by the sudden commotion. The waitress apologizes profusely. Akamori is flustered, while his colleague looks on. Akamori notices the waitress's figure as she walks away. The waitress, who is actually Lily, approaches their table and asks if they would like more coffee. Kashiwa agrees, mentioning she'll have some after watching Jintaro Banno. Lily's and Akamori's eyes meet. Lily looks at Akamori and asks, "Aren't you my neighbor?" Kashiwa is shocked by the revelation, exclaiming neighbor. Akamori confirms that it's a coincidence and that Lily is indeed his neighbor. Kashiwa remarks on the surprising coincidence. Lily, meanwhile, thinks to herself that this is how love starts for men weak to fate. Seeing this chance encounter, she inwardly exclaims, "I've got him." Pleased with herself, Lily suggests they exchange contact information. Akamori is taken aback by the sudden request, questioning why. However, a brief moment of interaction causes Lily to feel a shudder. Despite her own overwhelming appeal and ability, she feels the superhuman self-defense instincts held by first-rate martial arts families in the face of Akamori's cold, uncaring attitude. Lily reflects that what's needed in love isn't strength, but a sense of boundaries. She realizes that for her, a master of manipulation, there was one great misunderstanding here as she faces Akamori. Akamori bluntly asks what she would even contact him for, completely missing the point. The narration reveals the great misunderstanding getting in the way of her superior intellect. He is simply an airhead. As Lily and Kashiwa react in stunned confusion, Akamori's attention has already moved on. He points at Lily's phone, suddenly excited to see a phone cover from the show Jintaro Banno, completely oblivious to the social chaos he just created. Lily is internally conflicted, wondering what's up with Akamori. She thinks that if she's going to take the opportunity, now's the best time. She's amazed and flustered, thinking to herself that she can't believe the merchandise for a shitty drama actually worked as a ploy. Akamori, oblivious to her inner turmoil, asks if she wants the phone charm. He says it's fine and that he'd like to get one for himself. As he says this, Kashiwa tells him they should probably go back, while Lily wonders what on earth he is. On the phone, Lily makes her report. She states that they have already captured a majority of their prey, but she also has several failures to report. She looks back towards Akamori, thinking to herself that he might be a tougher enemy than she bargained for. The scene shows one of the captured targets, Amaki Ryukin, president of Amaguko Martial Arts, being choked out by Rendu Tsuneyoshi of the Moonlight Chemistry Judo Club. Rendu comments on how sad it is that the hunter has now become the hunted. Another scene shows the popular streamer Huma Kuchi, also known as Brawny Baldy, celebrating a victory during a live broadcast, thanking his viewers for the donations. In the foreground, Marukawa Shirori of the Marukawa Hall Karate Union stands over a defeated opponent. In a desolate room, a man reports to a shadowy figure referred to as the representative. With a defeated man on the floor, he asks if this is how wars begin. The representative, casually sipping a drink, replies, something like that. The chapter comes to a close with Lily's determined expression. She says to herself that the fun has yet to begin and that once the enemies line up, it's all going to burn down. The title page for Chapter 14, Premonitions, is shown. Akamori is at his desk, having received a text message from Aota-kin. In the office, a colleague is surprised by the sheer volume of documents on Akamori's desk. Akamori and his colleagues discuss the Hippo Whirl candy. One points out that it's still too early for a package deal and that no one would buy it. Another worries the complex structure will cause it to fail tests. Akamori confidently states it's not a problem. The general manager, Marukawa, appears, startling the employees. He says he overheard their conversation and tells Akamori he did good work. Marukawa explains his reasoning for approving the project. He recalls a discontinued product they had, which was some chocolate with a toy inside. He suggests that if they reuse the machinery from that, the cost shouldn't be a big deal, and tells Akamori to go suggest it. Kashiwa is impressed, remarking on what a relief it is that Akamori gets along with the general manager. Another colleague jealously comments that the manager is doting on him. Akamori just says they are more or less acquaintances. A flashback begins, showing Akamori's interview with Marukawa. The manager tells him bluntly that his sort isn't made for the working world. Akamori agrees, admitting he failed 27 interviews and 260 exams, and that he also thinks the working world isn't for him. In the flashback, Akamori looks up with fierce determination, adding, "But I will work as if I'm going to die. Rest assured." Marukawa is taken aback by his intense declaration. He processes Akamori's statement, pondering that for a person's growth or a change, something is absolutely essential. The flashback concludes with Marukawa looking out the window. He remarks that as an interviewer, he's seen many sorts of people, but this is a very fortunate encounter. He finds Akamori interesting and hires him on the spot. Back in the present, Akamori finishes recounting the story of how he was hired. Kashiwa calls it a complete error in employment, while their other colleague asks what is wrong with their company. Putting the story aside, Akamori's colleague congratulates him on going all out with his work. Akamori gets up to buy a drink. Kashiwa smiles while Akamori simply says, "Thanks." As Akamori walks away, the jealous colleague asks him, "Then again, compared to you, everyone's going all out. When will you be fired already?" Kashiwa looks on, thinking they're both going a little far with this. The scene shifts. Akamori is meeting with Aota Ken. Aota asks what Akamori wants with him, surprised that he was called out, noting that Akamori has been especially busy with his job lately. Akamori reminds Aota that he mentioned going to the Unified Gym to do some real practice. Aota, looking slightly annoyed, says he knows. Akamori observes him and comments that he's grown a bit. Akamori tells Aota that daily practice helps build up his muscle and wishes him good luck in the championship. He clenches his fist, telling Aota to go all out, then win with the best odds you can. As they leave the cafe, Aota remarks that Akamori encouraging him is a rare event. Akamori tells him to get the troublesome matter over with sooner rather than later so he can be released, and Aota simply replies with "Yo." Later that night, as Akamori and Aota walk along a bridge, a man leaning against the railing greets them with a smug "Hey there." The man turns to face them, revealing a menacing grin. Akamori is on guard as the man declares, "Oh, I've come to fight with you, Akamori." He then glances at Aota, adding that while his higher-ups told him not to lay a hand on Akamori, he is here to hunt the small fry standing right there. Aota steps in front of the man, asking who he is and why he's in the way. Akamori tells Aota to wait and go back to wherever he came from, but Aota says there's been a change of plans. The man, Hulk, taunts Aota, saying his luck must have run out. He challenges Aota to come at him. Aota tells Akamori he doesn't need help and launches a powerful kick at Hulk, yelling "Get off." Akamori observes the fight, noting that while Aota's weight and the power of his kicks have increased, Hulk is skillfully intercepting his attacks. He can see how much effort Aota has invested in his training. Hulk stops one of Aota's kicks and declares that kickboxing is okay then. He grabs Aota's leg, telling him to stop wasting his time and prepare to be the prey of Kapap, the ultimate martial art. Just as Hulk is about to strike, Akamori intervenes, instantly knocking Aota unconscious with a single, precise strike to the neck, a session Kasatsu Ryu technique called Destructive Light. Akamori apologizes to the unconscious Aota, explaining that the strike to his first cervical vertebrae will cause a shock to his brain and optic nerve, so he won't be seeing for a little while. He did it to prevent a fuss in public. Akamori turns to the stunned Hulk and says, "Seems you've lost, Aota. I'm going back now." Hulk can only watch as Akamori calmly walks away, leaving his student on the ground. As he leaves, Akamori calmly tells Hulk they'll see each other again tomorrow, and then things will go as planned because he'll be going for the neck, leaving the threat hanging in the air. The next day, Akamori and Kashiwa are working quietly at their desks in an otherwise empty office space. A nervous colleague approaches Akamori, asking if he has a minute. He shows Akamori a message on his phone, explaining that the general manager secretly notified him about the Hippo Whirl matter. The colleague announces that starting next month, a new team will be put together for the Hippo Whirl project, and the manager wants Akamori to lead it. Kashiwa is amazed, saying the project is really picking up speed. Kashiwa asks Akamori if he's not happy with the news of his promotion. Akamori remains silent, a thoughtful look on his face as he thinks to himself. What is it? This premonition I feel. The office receptionists look up, startled, as a group of imposing figures walks in. One of them asks aloud, "Police?" Chapter 14 comes to an end as the leader of the group, a man with a severe expression, asks where he can find Rikuo of the product planning department. The narration notes that it seems they've brought out the power of the state to take down Rikuo. An unexpected group of guests has shown up. The office staff looks on in fear and confusion as the imposing men walk through the office. The leader looks around and comments, "Quite a clean office you got here, eh?" Chapter 15 begins, titled People Can Change. The leader of the group flashes a badge, introducing himself as Yamada of the Metropolitan Police Department. Akamori is shocked to see the man he fought yesterday, Hulk, among the officers. As the police officers approach Akamori's desk, a recap explains the situation. Rikuo Akamori, an ordinary salaryman, is actually the descendant of an assassin family and is being hunted. The day after encountering the mysterious group called the Special Investigators, they show up at his workplace disguised as police. The officers escort Akamori into the hallway. Yuna Tsukino, a female officer, informs him they have a warrant for his arrest on suspicion of inflicting bodily injury. Akamori is stunned. Yamada tells Akamori that in consideration of those around them, they'll handcuff him outside. From the office window, Akamori's colleagues watch in disbelief as they see several police cars waiting below. Handcuffed in the back of a car, Akamori sits between two officers. Yamada asks if he's surprised, commenting that he's involved in a lot of cases. Yamada explains that they plan to make inquiries on the assumption that Akamori will inevitably commit more crimes in the future. Akamori scoffs, calling it a waste of time and less than a farce. Akamori realizes these aren't ordinary police. He asks if they are special investigators. Yamada confirms they are a group with partial police jurisdiction, a force for underground combative affairs. Akamori demands to call the representative. Yamada seems impressed by his perception, noting that while they have a rule to hurt and kill in secret, acting like this despite knowing their power is something he doesn't quite like. Suddenly, Yamada says, "And I'll deal with it right he dash," before swiftly and brutally knocking out the two officers sitting beside Akamori in the back seat. From the front, Hulk looks on impassively. In the front of the car, Yuna is driving with Hulk in the passenger seat. After the sudden takedown of the guards in the back, Yuna asks what gave their ruse away. Hulk, looking annoyed, reminds them that he was supposed to be the one to take Akamori down, not Yamada. Akamori holds up the broken handcuffs and answers a call. The person on the other end says, "It's been a while. It really is you, Akamori." Akamori, seeing the blood on his hand from breaking the cuffs, asks what they are planning. Akamori questions the caller. "Did you and my father not agree upon that rule so long ago?" The special investigators do not lay their hands upon the Akamori family. The caller simply replies that things have changed because of Akamori. The caller, the representative, explains that Akamori has caused too much of a disturbance within normal society and will undoubtedly cause even bigger issues for them in the future. He declares that the Metropolitan Police Department believes they must erase him. Akamori can only reply with a bitter heh. The representative continues, telling Akamori that he is unable to live a normal life. Even if you request peace sincerely from the heart, its cells wish for blood. That is an absolute rule of the Akamori family. However, the representative offers a different path. He tells Akamori to relax, as erasure is only their second best option. The best way to resolve the matter, he proposes, is for Akamori to join them. The representative clarifies the offer. Akamori is to join the special investigators and, in doing so, cooperate in wiping out the rest of the Akamori family. He suggests that for someone like Akamori who can't do anything other than kill, it's the best job. The representative presses his point, stating it's clear his colleagues see him as an anomaly and he'll never adapt to a normal company. In a company that calls for conformity, an anomaly like him is not necessary. However, the representative says, "We think you're necessary." The words trigger a memory for Akamori of an unending battle. A flashback shows a younger, bloodied Akamori being told that his talent for killing was what his family wished for, and that from here on, he would not be permitted to walk any other path. He cannot escape it. Back in the present, Akamori's bloodied hand clenches into a fist. The representative asks, "What's wrong, Akamori Rikuo?" Akamori glances at his phone, seeing notifications from his colleagues. Kashiwa Kid has messaged him, worried and waiting for him. Another colleague, Katsuragi, tells him he should talk things out when they go wrong. Firm in his resolve, Akamori interrupts the representative, telling him to let me off right here. Yamada is surprised by the sudden demand. As he gets out of the car, Akamori declares, people can change, as long as they question the path they came on, and continue along the path they most believe in, of course. Seeing Akamori leave, Hulk gets out of the car, declaring, I'm gonna go after him. Eunice simply wishes him the best of luck, while Yamada looks on. Yamada reports to the representative that Hulk has started to give chase. Meanwhile, Akamori runs through the city, wondering what is happening as Hulk pursues him. As he runs, Akamori feels his body getting heavy. The representative explains on the phone that they already made the first move. The broken handcuffs are shown, a testament to Akamori's strength, but it was all part of their plan. It's revealed that Hulk had injected Akamori with a special-make muscle relaxant using a 0.03mm needle during their encounter on the bridge. The effect is minor, but it's enough that Akamori couldn't have realized he was punctured. The representative explains that even that slight influence, combined with Hulk's strength, can make victory certain. Akamori stumbles, feeling the drug's effect. Hulk's strength is said to be on par with the Akamori family. It is revealed that at the age of 17, he formed the greatest crime organization in the Kanto region and killed 15 JSDF officials, making him a living legend. Hulk catches up to Akamori, greeting him with a casual "Yo, Akamori." He suggests they continue what they started yesterday, now that they're ready to fight for real. Akamori realizes he probably won't be able to return to his company life. He decides to refuse their offer and, for a moment, give up his cover as a salaryman to face his opponent. Hulk smirks, asking, "So, what are you gonna do?" A muscular man with light, spiky hair and tattoos sits on a bed, a confident smirk on his face. A voice asks, "How are you, Haru?" setting a tense and confrontational mood. The scene cuts to a confrontation. Akamori, dressed in a sharp suit, calmly tells his opponent, "Hulk, you're deaf. Have you thought about it that far?" Hulk, a burly man in a dark jacket, scoffs in response, "Heh, now I get it." As they face off, Akamori readies his hand in a peculiar stance. The text explains that this is the Sesshin Kasatsuryu Kenpu, a martial art focused on the deadly art of damaging the cervical vertebrae. Hulk throws a powerful punch, but Akamori deftly dodges it. This demonstrates a key principle of his martial art. Those who attain its peak can disregard differences in build and ensure victory in a single hit. Akamori not only dodges but stops Hulk's punch completely. Hulk is shocked, realizing in that instant that Akamori anticipated his every move, knowing exactly what he was going for. Bokwa, images from a different manga series. Bokwa, images from a different manga series. A brief thought explains the initial difficulty. The art that Hulk acquired was Kapap, a defensive martial art centered around counterattacking. Because of Kapap's high adaptability, it possessed the ability to suppress even Akamori's Sesshin Kasatsuryu, putting Akamori on the defensive. Bokwa, unsupported language and image. Bokwa, unsupported language and image. Akamori reflects on his opponent's style. He recalls being told that his own style isn't suitable for the special investigators and finds the defensive nature of Kapap a tad boring. Hulk declares that the defensive style doesn't fit him either. He prefers to simply break the enemy. As he discards a piece of his necklace, Akamori realizes he's now in his opponent's range. Suddenly, Hulk lunges forward with incredible velocity. His speed is so immense it's likened to teleportation, a blur of motion that closes the distance instantly. This incredible speed isn't a technique. It's the result of God-given strength. Hulk's fast-twitch muscle fibers have been abnormally developed, granting him the greatest instantaneous power in the world. Akamori is stunned, realizing the danger. Against such an attack, anyone would be powerless. As Hulk closes in, he smirks, thinking this unrestrained, purely destructive style is what he enjoys. Akamori can only watch, seemingly unable to react. Wiping sweat from his brow, Akamori calmly accepts the reality of the situation. "With you as my opponent," he says, "it seems I won't be winning without a wound." Hulk listens, intrigued. Akamori seems to agree to Hulk's provocation, nonchalantly accepting the challenge for a direct, brutal confrontation. In a last resort, Akamori abandons the conventional strength of martial arts. With blood trickling from his nose, he prepares a different kind of counter, much to Hulk's surprise. Just as Hulk is about to strike, Akamori utilizes his Session Satsudou not to attack, but to create a collision, stopping Hulk's mad dash in a mere moment. The powerless martial art comes back to life. Akamori lands a precise, devastating blow, causing a burst of pain that makes Hulk recoil, blood spurting from the impact. Both fighters are brought to the ground. Hulk, crouching like a beast, is bewildered and shaken from the unexpected turn of events, demanding to know what Akamori just did. Before Hulk can recover, Akamori is back on his feet. He pivots and unleashes a powerful kick, catching his opponent completely off guard. Bokwa, images from a different manga series. Bokwa, images from a different manga series. Bokwa, images from a different manga series. Bokwa, image from a different story. Akamori ends the fight with a decisive flying kick to Hulk's head. He declares that victory is for the one more prepared to die, stating, "Unfortunately for you, I'm ready to die any day." The battle is over. Bokwa, explicit image from a different manga. Bokwa, explicit image from a different manga. A title panel recaps the events. Hulk is shown defeated as Akamori stands over him, while a conversation unfolds about talent and fighting for one's life, foreshadowing the themes to come. In the pouring rain, Hulk lies defeated on the pavement. Akamori stands over him, callously pulling out his phone as if nothing has happened. Akamori makes a call, addressing someone he calls representative. On the other end of the line, a voice exclaims in shock, "Akamori!" It's clear this call is unexpected. The representative, now revealed to be the one who sent Hulk, is in disbelief. Akamori warns him that the special investigators don't touch the Akamori family, and that if the representative steps into his company again, he will lose even more. Akamori then drops the phone, cutting him off. Just then, a group of agents arrives in the rain. Akamori turns to them and says, "You're late." The group, led by a woman with dark hair named Lily, looks on at the scene. Akamori nonchalantly tells the newly arrived agents, "As you can see, it's already over." Lily looks at Hulk's unmoving body on the ground and asks Akamori directly, "Did you kill him?" With a cold, determined gaze, Akamori simply replies, "I did what I needed to, so that I can continue being a mere salaryman." He then checks a message on his phone, showing a complete disconnect from the violence he just committed. Lily is left speechless and shocked by his detached confession. The scene pans out, showing Akamori standing alone in the vast, rainy cityscape, with Hulk's body a distant shape on the ground, emphasizing his isolation. Later that night, at 10:36 p.m., Akamori is at home, reflecting on the special investigators. He muses that while they are an underground organization of experts, they are unlikely to pursue him further as they would have too much to lose. His thoughts continue, acknowledging that he can't make light of their power. He worries about the possibility of his father getting involved, a prospect he fears even more than the special investigators. Suddenly, a voice shouts, "Hey!" interrupting his thoughts. The scene shifts to a training session. Akamori has a young man with two-toned hair, Aota, in a painful hold. Aota quickly taps out, yelling, "I give." Aota complains that Akamori is being too rough and not following the rules of kickboxing. Akamori retorts that Aota's movements are sloppy and his battle senses have dulled. Akamori criticizes how carelessly Aota threw heavy blows the day before. Aota explains that he had increased his weight and the power of his kicks, but Akamori seems unimpressed, implying it wasn't effective. Aota thinks back with frustration, admitting that even with his increased power, he felt like he couldn't get through that man at all, referring to Akamori. Akamori silently observes, looking down at the scuff marks on the gym floor. Akamori tells Aota not to be discouraged, reassuring him, "You will eventually be better than him." He then says there are 2 reasons for this, catching Aota's full attention. Akamori begins his first lesson, explaining that fighters generally dislike mixing styles. He points out that no one has ever managed to combine their art with the supreme martial art of the East, Sesshin Kasatsuryu Kenpu. Akamori tells Aota that if he could master both his raw power and Akamori's techniques, even a powerful foe couldn't neglect him. He then throws a quick jab that appears out of nowhere, demonstrating his superior speed. Next, Akamori demonstrates a kick from the inside. He explains that while it's weaker than a normal kick, the impact comes from the joint of the second toe, and with Aota's kicking ability and flexibility, it could become a fierce attack. Akamori continues, showing that the next step is to attack the cervical vertebrae. He tells Aota that this sort of kick would destroy an opponent's joints, and that he must put weight into his feet and practice relentlessly to learn it. Akamori concludes the technical lesson, instructing Aota to start with a 500-gram weight and build up to 2 kilograms. As he turns to leave, a determined Aota immediately begins practicing, but remembers there was more to the lesson. As Akamori walks away, Aota calls after him, asking about the second reason for gaining strength. Akamori simply tells him to give it his all, cryptically adding that the answer should be obvious. Akamori elaborates on the second reason, mentality. He explains that a first-rate fighter must have immense tenacity and the will to bet their life on victory, warning that even a genius who trusts too much in their talent will remain third-rate. Aota bristles at the lecture, retorting that he doesn't need to be told that by a supposed salaryman. But as Akamori turns to leave, Aota quietly and firmly declares his own resolve. "I'm also prepared for death." Every day, Akamori pauses at the door, having heard Aota's declaration. A small, satisfied smile plays on his lips before he departs, leaving Aota alone in the now quiet room. The next day, Akamori is back in his salaryman persona, sitting at his office desk and sorting through a pile of emails. Suddenly, he is startled by an abrupt interruption. His colleague, Katsuragi, stands over him fuming, demanding to know why Akamori hasn't replied to his messages. Another colleague, Kashiwa Keat, looks on with concern. Katsuragi continues to berate Akamori for ignoring his messages and for having the police show up at their office. Akamori tries to explain that there was a major incident nearby and he was needed as a witness, but Katsuragi accuses him of lying. Katsuragi complains that he was unable to get any work done because he was so worried. Akamori offers a dry apology, which only angers his colleague more. Kashiwa, however, looks relieved that that's all it was. As Katsuragi declares Akamori should be fired, their section chief appears, calling Akamori's name. He says he'd like to speak about yesterday's matter, and Katsuragi eagerly asks the chief to give Akamori a scolding. Katsuragi sits back down, grumbling about Akamori getting in the way again. Akamori gets up and follows the section chief down the hallway, leaving his concerned and annoyed colleagues behind. The scene focuses on the stark, empty office hallway and the door to meeting room C302, building a sense of foreboding about the conversation to come. Inside the meeting room, the section chief brings up the events of the previous day. Akamori starts to explain it was personal business, but the chief cuts him off, stating that while they will hear him out, he must first deliver his conclusion. Looming over the table, the section chief delivers the final blow. "We will discharge you for poor discipline." Akamori is left utterly stunned as the chapter comes to a shocking end. Akamori, a man with dark hair, listens with a serious expression as his companion, Aota, who has two-toned hair, smirks. Aota remarks that he didn't realize Akamori could make such a face, adding that he didn't expect him to be happy about getting fired. Akamori simply replies, "That's not it." While sitting at a table, Akamori clarifies to Aota that he hasn't been fired yet. The scene then flashes to a conversation with the HR department head, who informs Akamori that the police consider him a suspect in an assault case. In what appears to be a meeting with his superiors, a man tells Akamori that regardless of why he was released from custody after just one day, the situation calls for dismissal. Akamori argues it was a wrongful arrest and threatens litigation. The superior decides to conduct an internal investigation and will make an official statement in 2 weeks. Back in the apartment, Akamori and Aota are having coffee. Akamori explains he's been told to wait at home until then. Aota casually remarks that it seems like it's just a matter of time before he's fired for real. Aota then delivers a surprising piece of news to Akamori, who looks on with a startled expression. Aota reveals that he also left his organization, his little gang, just last night. Akamori asks about the rent, then presses Aota for the real reason he left. After a moment of hesitation, Aota explains that his decision was because of his little sister. The scene transitions to a flashback. A woman is seen being held captive, while in the background, Aota stands before his gang. The gang's leader asks if Aota wants to cut ties because he's participating in Fujin. Aota confirms that he does. The long-haired leader, smoking on a couch, asks Aota for his motive if it isn't about money. Aota declares that his goal is to become a popular athlete in normal society. Aota explains that his motivation is his little sister, who is in the hospital and praying for his success. That is why he is determined to change his life. The scene shows the leader listening intently. The leader reminisces about Aota's past, noting it's been 6 years since he recruited him. He lists Aota's accomplishments: a former kickboxing champion, a student at a famous school, and even having potential as a model. Aota's life was full of promise. The leader continues the story, explaining that because Aota was the son of a bureaucrat, he was envied by his classmates. This envy led some brats to have their eyes on him, which would soon lead to tragedy. The tragic result of that envy is revealed. A rich kid sent goons to attack Aota's home. The house was burned to the ground with his parents still inside, and his younger sister was brutally assaulted, leaving her deeply traumatized. The leader remembers Aota crying in front of him, begging him to deal with the kid responsible. A gruesome image shows the result of that request. The leader casually mentions on his phone that the perpetrator is now being used for drug testing in Southeast Asia. The leader reminds Aota of their deal, revenge in exchange for joining the gang. Aota argues that he has contributed more than enough and wants to move on. However, the leader coldly states that the deal will never end. The situation intensifies as the leader points a gun at Aota, telling him their deal has no end. Aota, shocked, can only tell him to quit it. With the gun aimed at Aota and the rest of the gang watching, the leader says something unexpected. Aota, you aren't made for this. A female member of the gang, who has a distinctive neck tattoo, speaks up in support of the leader. She agrees that Aota isn't made for a life of crime and that he has already done plenty for them, telling him to give it up. The leader places his gun on the table and lights a cigarette, remarking that it will be lonely without Aota. Seeing he is free to go, Aota turns to leave. As he walks away, Aota looks back at his former gang. He tells them this life isn't for him and thanks them for everything they've done for him. The scene returns to the present. Aota tells Akamori that with his past behind him, there should be no more trouble. Akamori responds grimly, stating that this means Aota has no choice but to win his upcoming event. The perspective shifts to a woman with long black hair, speaking on the phone while showering. She tells the person on the other end, presumably Akamori, to worry about himself since he got fired. She listens as he corrects her, saying he hasn't been fired yet. After ending the call, a satisfied smile forms on her face as she relaxes in the bath. She thinks to herself how surprising it is that things have gone so well, especially that Akamori Rikuo, of all people, to get fired. Her inner monologue reveals a sinister plot. Akamori being fired was the ideal outcome for her objective. She explains that if he isn't a salaryman, he'll stop being attacked at work and on his commute, which will greatly increase her opportunities to honeypot him. She continues to piece everything together. She knew the special investigators were planning a surprise attack. So, by having a UN security team protect Akamori and provoking the representative, she forced the investigators' clients to get cold feet and leave. Then, naturally, since the police had left the case to them, the investigators couldn't fully withdraw. This forced them to break their principle of working in the background and resort to a plan B. Lily continues her monologue, thinking that with Akamori's dismissal, the special investigators are distraught and she can carry out her honeypot plan as she pleases. She muses that perhaps it's all gone too well. She gets out of the bath, thinking that before he was fired, her plan was to use his colleague to destroy him. As Lily steps out of the bath, She considers that her colleague might have been a man or a woman, but they were annoying. She smirks with satisfaction, thinking to herself that apparently God loves her too much. The clock shows it's just after 3 p.m. At Akamori's apartment, two of his colleagues arrive, a man and a woman. The man, Katsuragi, calls out to Akamori, who invites them in. Just as they're settling in, Lily, Akamori's neighbor, shows up at the door with groceries, offering to share since she ordered too much. Katsuragi is immediately interested, and Lily notes to herself that he is Akamori's senior and seems to have value for her plans. As Lily enters the apartment, she pretends to lose her balance and falls directly into Katsuragi. Akamori is flustered by the sudden physical contact, but Katsuragi smoothly catches her, telling her not to worry about it. Inside, Katsuragi introduces himself and claims he's single, a lie his colleague Kashiwa Keat immediately points out. The group decides to drink together, and Lily internally notes that the game is on. Lily suggests they go out drinking, maybe to an izakaya or even a night pool. She thinks to herself that now all options are on the table for her to manipulate the situation, even the less decent ones. Katsuragi enthusiastically agrees to the night pool idea, giving a thumbs up. Akamori seems hesitant. Lily tells Akamori he should have a change of pace, thinking to herself that a life-involving struggle is about to begin. With a confident wink, Lily thinks about how she is loved by both God and Katsuragi. She says she's looking forward to it, anticipating the next phase of her plan at the night pool. The scene shifts to a vibrant night pool party. Lily, in a bikini, takes center stage, inviting everyone to get drunk. In the background, Kashiwa Keat sighs, remarking that Katsuragi's wife would surely cry if she saw him now. Kashiwa Keat expresses her suspicions about Lily to Akamori. She finds it weird that Lily, who supposedly works as a waitress, lives in a high-class apartment and suddenly brought them all to a night pool. Kashiwa Keat asks Akamori if it's okay for him to be here, since he's supposed to be under house arrest. Akamori confesses that he might be getting fired anyway, which shocks her. With a look of genuine concern, Kashiwa Keat earnestly pleads with Akamori not to quit his job. Taken aback by her sincerity, he reassures her that he won't. Trying to change the subject, Kashiwa Keat compliments Akamori, telling him she's honestly surprised at how great of a shape he is in. Akamori gets flustered by the compliment. In his flustered state, Akamori blurts out an awkward compliment in return, saying he's surprised by how big Kashiwa Keat's breasts are. She is left speechless and horrified by his sudden and inappropriate comment. The scene shows the wider pool area, where people are relaxing. Aota finds Akamori sitting by himself and tells him to cheer up and stop being so depressed. At a table, Lily asks what happened to Akamori. Katsuragi guesses it involves drugs. Meanwhile, Lily internally gloats that her plan is succeeding. Akamori will be fired, never hired again, and will be forced to become her dependent. Lily playfully offers Akamori a bite of pizza, asking if he likes it. He looks uncomfortable, while Katsuragi looks on with an annoyed expression. Katsuragi tells them to keep it down, clearly irritated. Just then, Akamori's phone rings with a call from the CEO, much to his surprise. Katsuragi thinks to himself, Akamori, just die. On the phone, the CEO tells Akamori not to worry and asks what happened. Akamori, looking distressed, explains that he was told he's going to be charged for the assault. Katsuragi questions Lily about the dozen police officers that showed up at their office. On the phone, Akamori insists he did nothing wrong, and the CEO reassures him, saying they have no concrete evidence. The CEO on the phone is furious, calling the company's actions ridiculous. He promises to give the head of HR a stern talking to and tells Akamori to relax and come back to work on Monday, as if nothing happened. The CEO continues, reaffirming his faith in Akamori and acknowledging his hard work. Then, he asks a peculiar question. Despite how our company has treated you, do you still love our company? Overwhelmed with emotion, Akamori tearfully declares his love for the company. The CEO expresses his relief, thanks him, and mentions a new product project he has high expectations for. Akamori hangs up the phone and excitedly announces that his dismissal has been canceled, thanks to the CEO. A shocked Katsuragi asks about the woman on the phone, but Akamori clarifies he was talking to their male CEO. Katsuragi explains to Lily that it was the CEO's personal decision to hire Akamori, so his own career would be at risk if anything happened to him. Meanwhile, Akamori is seen floating blissfully in the pool, completely relaxed after the good news. As her colleagues get carried away, Lily sits alone, annoyed but undeterred. She thinks to herself that even though Akamori avoided getting fired, it doesn't change the fact that she has successfully gotten closer to him. As Lily walks away from the main pool area, she is approached by a group of unsavory men trying to hit on her. She thinks to herself that she has plenty of time and will proceed with her plan slowly. In a flash, she has already moved past them. The men who had approached Lily are left brutally beaten in her wake, their bodies contorted in pain. She walks away calmly, thinking to herself that she will lay the groundwork for her plan slowly and carefully. 2 days later, at a grand, church-like building, a report is being given. Over the past few days, 127 people have attempted to contact Akamori. The UN has captured most of them, but some showed great resistance, even turning the tables on their would-be assassins. Inside the vast, empty hall of the church, Lily stands at the far end. She calls out to 2 men who are standing with their backs to her, summoning them forward. The 2 men are introduced, Rindu Tsuneyoshi, a 29-year-old judo expert, and Amaki Ryukin, a 37-year-old master of hypnosis Qigong. Lily gets straight to the point, informing them that they will now work for her on the UN's mission, the complete eradication of the Akamori clan. Rindu Tsuneyoshi explodes with anger, telling Lily not to mess with him. He claims they are only here to get revenge on her for attacking them. Lily coolly responds that she doesn't mind which it is, ready for a confrontation. Rindu boasts about being a world-class athlete and a Grand Slam winner. Lily dismisses his accomplishments as nothing compared to Akamori's strength. She then reveals she knows that one of Rindu's fellow disciples was killed by an Akamori long ago, and he wants to personally teach Akamori a lesson. Lily tells the arrogant Rindu to shut up and do as she says. He retorts with a vile insult, calling her a whore. Just as he finishes his sentence, Lily calmly says a single name, Rose. Out of nowhere, an older man in a suit appears behind Rindu and delivers a powerful, swift blow to his face. Rindu is sent flying, completely caught off guard by the sudden attack. The man, Rose, stands over the fallen Rindu. He sternly declares that misogyny is not acceptable, making the reason for his attack clear. This powerful enforcer is identified as Rose, a UN spy and Lily's second-in-command. He disgustedly wipes his glove where Rindu's saliva touched it, then turns his attention to the remaining operative, Amaki. Having witnessed his partner's swift and brutal punishment, Amaki pragmatically agrees to Lily's terms, calling it a mutually beneficial arrangement. Lily smiles, pleased with his quick thinking, while Rose notes that this one is decent. Rose then asks Lily about a girl named Marukawa Shirori. Lily dismisses her as a non-threat, explaining that Shirori is only interested in Akamori because he recently defeated her famous father, not because she wants to get involved. Lily mentions there is one more person of interest. She shows Rose the profile of a strange man who managed to beat one of their assassins. Rose asks if they should recruit or dispose of him. Lily decides against it, thinking that while he seems useful, he's far too creepy. The scene shifts to a messy room filled with anime girl figurines and posters. At a computer, a man is typing. A narration box reveals a shocking truth. A master of the legendary Shoshin Katsushiryu Kinpo and a member of the Akamori clan is lurking in a modern company. The man in the room is revealed to be Hijima Kuchi, a 54-year-old also known as Mukich. He smiles, thinking it's funny that he's gone viral. His YouTube channel has 7.5 million subscribers, and the text teases the arrival of a new, powerful foe.